I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Please be seated. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. The regular meeting, GPA, October 17, 2016, moved by Councillor Watton. Any errors and omissions? Councillor Drew?
Thank you. It's just an omission. I would like under, excuse me, under regrets that I was there, I was away on regional police business. Thank you.
Okay. Any other errors and omissions? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item, the presentations. All our presentations are down under deputation, so we'll move on to announcements. Announcements from council. Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. A wonderful time last Saturday at the Legion with their remembrance ceremony. Good time was had by all.
Any other announcements from council? Okay, seeing none, I do want to announce that the Mayor's Gala was quite successful. We had a couple other councillors in attendance, Councillor Somerville, Councillor Drew, and we also had Paul Allure and his wife Tamara join us. I just want to say it was a great event. It was focused on the performing arts. It was great. So before I move on to the deputations, I do want to take this opportunity to bring attention to our new Deputy Fire Chief, Mark Burney, who is, if you could stand for us, Mark, so that those of us who have not been formally introduced. So Mark is now the new Deputy Fire Chief under Chief Miller, and we'd like to, on behalf of Council and Township, welcome you aboard and look forward to your expertise and input in helping guide our fire department and our township. So thank you very much. So now we're moving on to proclamations issued by the Mayor's Office for November 2016. Teachers of English as a Second Language Association of Ontario, November 20th to the 26th. Is the proclamation date, and the Lung Association of Ontario for Lung Month, and it's for the entire month of November. All right. So now at this time we are on our item 7, deputations and public hearings, and I'd now like to call on Dennis Trotter from Kids Safety Village. Lennis, sorry, I said Dennis. Sorry, Lennis. You know the drill. Come on to the front and just make sure your mic is pressed, and you'll have 5 minutes to do your deputation to council, and then we'll ask questions after that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Okay, you received a letter that Astrid has sent regarding the number of people that have come into the village from Scugog. I have talked to the principals of the 5 schools in Scugog. Cartwright has gone in the past, and but there's a new principal there, and I'm not sure she knows. I'm not sure how soon she's been there. Montessori is going. Good Shepherd, again a new principal, only about a month. So they were checking into and getting back to me, but haven't gotten back to me yet. And Cornish usually sends between 70 and 90 students for the grade 2 program. For the grade 1 program, as we've discussed, a grade 2, a grade 3, a grade 5, and a grade 6. We had a Halloween extravaganza last month. There was 2,400 people that came through the village to see the costumes and everything, and then a lot of the participants were costumed. There was a haunted house and several other drive-in theater, so it was quite successful. November, Terry Johnson, the radio has been all working with us. We're having a Christmas lights and displays starting November 18th to the 27th, and the Easter egg extravaganza is coming up at Easter. And basically, I'm here today to sort of get your contribution towards the renovation addition of the main building. We have asked for the municipalities and the fire associations. We're in the process of asking them to re-sponsor the fire hall. Basically, if those the sum of those donations will cover about 25% of the new renovation addition to the existing building, to add another classroom with the smoke room, which the smoke room will have a bathroom, kitchen, bedroom in it for the students to go through, and larger areas because of the extra officers to be instructing both fire and police. I think you're all familiar with the project. I've been here a few times, and if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for that update, Lennis. I'll look for council to ask questions. Councillor Back.
Thank you for coming again. I look at the numbers still, and I still don't see a very high percentage of uptake from our schools. So I see 9 schools, and there's 3 schools that are actually attending this year. And so I know my daughter's school actually went this fall. She's in grade 3, and it was the first time their school had the opportunity to actually attend, because we had sort of tried to push for that priority booking, because the schools in the north don't tend to get even a chance to get in. So I don't see the uptake, and I don't know if it's because the schools have given up. I know my daughter's teacher said, we gave up. We couldn't get on. We had no chance to get in. And so perhaps the bigger schools, maybe they just said, you know what, it's off the radar now. If you try and try, it's just like getting tickets for certain concerts. If you can't get in, you're not going to bother. So, I don't know. I see it's the constant disproportion of the north to the south, and it still looks like the south is getting the majority of the bookings, and the calculation for this funding needs to be reevaluated.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. So, as I understand it from thank you for your presentation, Lennis. As I understand it from your presentation, you're waiting to hear back from Good Shepherd and RH Cornish, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, I was told that I know RH Cornish has gone every year.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the year is divided into 3. Grade 2s doing electric cars, they do it in the fall. That program, I understand, is full. She sends out the information in June. The grade 1s do it in the winter, it's a walking tour. Grade 3s do it in the spring, it's bicycle. And I'm sorry, I don't know how, from a marketing point of view, we've got a board meeting tonight, and more of the committee meeting after that, to try and get more funds raised to get this thing done. But why are we working to raise money to bring the fire departments in when some municipalities won't support the village? I can easily just say, municipalities have given, here's your money back. Close. You'll never come in the village. We need that other classroom to teach our children fire safety. And I don't know how, from a marketing point of view, to be fair to everybody, that you can give one particular municipality an advantage because of their size. I don't know how to do that properly, ethically, and legally.
Further, Quaker Village is an Uxbridge school. It's not a Scugog school. And you are aware that we do have the fire safety house here in Scugog Township. Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Watton?
Well, my question was just with the reference to the priority booking time that they were given. And I wonder, my question was, in this letter from Astrid, it says that, like, for example, the Green Bank, had they booked in June when they were given the priority booking time. So my question to you is did that go to all the northern schools that you're aware, to everyone, so everyone in Durham, so it's not a priority booking, it's just a...
Well, it's like anything else. If you
first come, first... No, but it's a first come...
not get a room.
But it's a first come, first serve. It's...
Yes.
Okay. I just, because it said priority time given, that's why I was curious about that based on what you had said previously. No, and I can appreciate that, you know, I can appreciate your...
We're not on the day-to-day administration of all that stuff. That's left up to the police.
So, again, further to Councillor Back's comments, so all the southern municipalities, have they contributed financially?
I'm missing one. We've gone through committee, and hopefully it'll be going through this year to give us their donation.
And if you could refresh my memory, what is the amount that you're looking for?
For who?
From the municipalities.
5,000 from the 3 northern and 15,000 from the 3 southern.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I thought.
Any other first-time questioners from the deputation? Councillor Back?
Thank you. And I don't think anybody here is arguing the fact that it's a worthwhile program. It is. However, as I said, my daughter is in grade 3. She's missed grade 1, grade 2, and the only reason she got grade 3 is because we pushed to say that the northern schools need to have an advantage to get in because it gets gobbled up by the south. There is no proportion. I'm sure that it's just a simple calculation of how many time slots and dates you have to allocate with the population. It's just, you can't look at both sides of the coin. Yes, it's a worthwhile educational experience, but if our children aren't going, why are we funding it? I don't want to fund for the south. We fund enough for the south. And so if our schools aren't doing it, and
everybody in Skugog is using facilities in other municipalities in Durham region.
We pay dear. We pay a heck of a lot more than we use, just say, for transit, so that people in Oshawa can no, it's...
To my knowledge, from talking to the constable, this is the first time your school has actually applied to Joel.
Right? No, it's not. That's not true. No.
I don't want to get into a discussion. I don't want to get into an argument.
Well, then you can't ask for money if you don't answer. I'm sorry.
I'm looking for funding for this project.
Now, for just a second,
no, I just want to make sure this...
I'm not. I'm going to say for...
Councillor Back, I want there to be respect in this meeting, and I want to make sure that we move forward in a respectful way, and I don't want this to become argumentative, so I allowed that to happen there, but both between the two parties, I will not continue discussing this if that's going to happen.
I am offering something for a marketing perspective, if I'm allowed to continue.
You can continue on, but remember that Lennis is on the fundraising committee, not on the administrative committee, so...
As for the
20-some odd years.
As for the marketing perspective, as I said, the schools here, I think, have given up. They try to get in, and after years and years of trying to get in, and you simply are shut out of the program because it's full, they've moved on. They don't even think of it anymore. No, I'm trying to ask...
Allow Councillor Back to continue. Just let her continue with her question, please.
So what I would say to that is, I think, and it says faxes, I don't know how many people use faxes anymore. We do have Durham police that go out into the communities and into the schools. There's a section of that. And I think that that would be your ideal marketing tool, because Astrid is busy at the actual village. If her colleagues were to actually come and speak either to the elementary principals or to the elementary teachers and tell them the program and the benefit of, and say, listen, here it is, here's a priority booking for the north, I think you might have uptake. But currently, I think it's just, they've given up, and you're off the radar, and I can't see us spending money to fund something our children aren't benefiting from.
Yes, I'd like you to comment on that.
Astrid went to a meeting at Durham Board of Ed this fall and met, and it was I'm not quite sure what the venue was, but she was there to present and give information to all the principals. That was done. The inspector has promised me that he will be supplying Astrid, or the constable, I should say, with administrative support going forward. And that administration support should help to alleviate some of your concerns. And I will know more about that at the meeting tonight, because we're having our annual meeting as far as the board's concerned, and then a committee meeting after that to again continue on the fundraising.
Thank you. Is there any follow-up on that? I just wanted to, I understand the frustration, the situation that you're in. I think, I've been to Safety Village with my son going through school on a couple occasions. I know RH Cornish has utilized the program. I do not know about the process with the communication to the administration, and the fact that it's at the end of the year when teachers maybe don't commit themselves, because they may not even be teaching that class the following year, because I think in June that's when they shuffle around the classes, so it could be understandable that teachers don't commit the next grade's teacher.
We have found through fundraising, these things, I had one corporate, and of course the corporate sponsors have got their own funding now. They're saying, we're looking after this. We had a professional fundraiser speak to us a month or so ago, and it looks like we're going to have to change courses and go more to individual people, individual foundation, which is going to be a lot harder and a lot more time consuming. But I phoned one corporate sponsor, and the person said, oh, we support women's health. And I said, okay, isn't the health of your children part of women's health? No. I do not know any mother that would ever say that. And unfortunately, they, oh yeah, I'm familiar with the village, and I thought after I hung up, no, she's familiar with the village in another municipality, not this one. There's 11 villages in the province now.
Yep, so my point is to say that I think the school is an excellent tool for teaching the safety for our children, but we recognize that there are some concerns that I don't know if it's all the northern three that have the same concerns, and that was my follow-up question is, has there been the same concern expressed by Uxbridge and Brock?
No.
No. So, and where we left off with this, just wanted to ask our treasurer, is this left in the budget for carry forward from previous year, from last year, or from 2016? Michelle. Okay. Okay.
There was a motion passed for the 5,000 the last time.
Yeah.
I was here.
Yeah, it was contingent on receiving the follow-up and the response.
We gave the follow-up,
Yeah.
and then we gave
Yeah.
a further follow-up, and we
Yeah.
can go on to
Yeah.
Doomsday with follow-up.
So, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to waste your time doing that. We don't want to waste council's time or everybody else's time kicking this ball down the street, or can down the street. So, we have to put this to bed with a decision on this. I don't know out of here, you said tonight there's another meeting. I don't want to defer this too much longer, but I know that there's marketing initiatives and other suggestions that are happening. I don't know what the rest of council is going to need in order to support that release, but internally we need to make sure that those funds are set aside. So I'm looking at the treasurer and Michelle pick to see if it's where it is, but we won't necessarily be dealing that now while you're here, because we may not get that until later on, or at the another avenue. So I do want to thank you for the update for this, and I do think it's a worthwhile cause. I mean, I support, I don't think there's any counselor that doesn't support the initiative on there. I think what they're trying to do is use this as an opportunity to solve the problems of the communication of issues that have been being brought forward from as parents. So I believe that it's being addressed, and I respectfully understand the concerns, issues of prioritization between the north and the south, and how you do that ethically or responsibly.
How to do that
So,
properly,
and I understand where you're coming from.
I
Yeah.
don't see how I can do that.
Yeah, and I understand where counselors who have brought up concerns too are talking about it, and where your concerns are coming from. One of the things that was brought up in the last time you were here was the geographical location. So the fact that some of the schools are quick bus rides versus a long bus ride, and it's a longer commitment out of the school day. And if they have to wait, and they're not booking those, time periods, it's a question that I can't answer. If they're all receiving the same application in June and they all have the equal opportunity, you can lead a horse to water, right? But you can't force them to drink.
To the computer, like I know of some people that say, I don't have time to read all my emails. Well, I'm sorry. How can you do your job if you can't read your emails, because your emails are today's letters?
So, and on that point, if it's sheer communication and these correspondences are coming out in June equally to everyone, I would suggest that because this is for the benefit of our residents and the youth of our residents and the parents of the students, that possibly if there's an avenue that we could also assist in undertaking, whether it's through our communication, our website, our communications managers, to be able to make sure that that opportunity is stressed and highlighted, so that we're doing everything we can do to make sure that anything we contribute for, that it gets the level of engagement. Because I agree with you, if you wait till the last minute and you don't get it, that's not an argument or an excuse. But if it is, like some suggestions I've had, that there just isn't an opportunity to get in there, it's like a scale to the point where you're trying to get, as the analogy that Councillor Back was saying, if it's like a concert to try and get in, and they just haven't been able to get through. We don't know the processes that they've been doing, but we don't want the excuse to be that they didn't know about it, and if it's going through faxes or if there's stuff. Basically, to sum it up, we want to make sure that we help everybody else. So I don't want to speak for the rest of council. This is something that I know we had a deferral on that, so I'm just going to wait to get that deferral up before we decide on where that's going. But I appreciate you updating the rest of council with this, and we want to put it to bed. So thank you very much, Dennis.
You're not going to know for the meeting tonight?
Well, you may, but here comes Michelle now. Do you? Yeah. So it's approved in a line item 2016 budget with a deferral. And did you see what the deferral was based on? Sorry. Okay. All right. So we don't have a motion that's in that particular in the section on here. So a councillor can bring a motion forward on this one. I would look forward to see if any councillor wants to deal with this now, or if they want to wait until later on in the meeting. Councillor Rotten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make the motion that, given we received the information we requested and the money had been put aside for the 2016 budget, that we release it and make it available to the Safety Village.
Right. So we're in GPA. We do not need a seconder for that motion. Questions or comments on that motion? Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if it wouldn't be a great idea to have this motion passed under the condition that the next year when it comes back, we have more of a how many students actually technically used it from Scugog, so we can come up with an amount per student, if there was 300 or 400 or something like that.
I mean, I think you're suggesting possibly an administrative undertaking. You're committing somebody to do something else with that. We're talking about, and I'm not saying $5,000 isn't a lot of money for a small township, but we have to be realistic. Either we support the Safety Village or we don't support it. That's what it comes down to. We don't really need to get into the weeds with this. It's a discussion that I'll be bringing it down to a vote and say we move forward with it.
Well, I mean, my point is that, I mean, if it's good for our schools and our students, then it's a good project for us to have. And I'm saying that if we go forward with it now, how are we going to not be faced with the same question when it comes forward in this 2017?
But this is just a one-time fundraising project. It's not an annual. This is a one-time request that we're talking about, and I don't think that, when was the last time?
When the fire come in, and as I said, because of the email and that, not everybody reads them, and they don't know, even though, you know, we've been promoting this thing for over 20 years.
Yeah, and I think that there are modernization for marketing. I mean, it's the same thing why we wouldn't get a level of engagement with many different events. If they're interested or not interested, we can't speak for that, but I think what we need to do is focus on the opportunity that the members have in the different schools, and as long as all the schools do have that equal opportunity based on the exact same criteria as everywhere else, then I could see, I support us contributing to this worthwhile cause. It's a one-time cause. We've already approved it in last year's budget, conditional on that, so here's our conditional responses. We can work collaboratively and together to make sure that is stressed to the local schools and really.
We have promised another backup support person, which should help this, because right now, she's a one person.
Yeah. Councillor Cat, did you finish with your point? Okay. Councillor Back, you had your hand up.
I did, thank you. I believe the condition was that the numbers came back, actual numbers. So, you know, you could say Cornish has how many grade 1 students? There's more than grade 1 class of grade 1. So we have 3 out of 9 schools of our schools attending, and that perhaps is 1 out of perhaps 3 of grade 1 in a school. That's what the contingent was that we actually had representation. And so that's just my concern, is that we're not getting the uptake from our students.
So, and you've expressed your concerns, Councillor Back, and my point is that if the same information is sent out to all the schools, then it's up to our schools to apply early enough to make sure they are locking in their dates. So we shouldn't penalize the fundraising committee based on a level of engagement if everybody's treated the same. So, any other questions from Councillor Somerville?
I just have a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just that if you have a board meeting this evening, and I'm quite willing to give you the $5,000 as well, because $5,000 is hardly anything, especially when we go through a lot of money. If you just give back, if it's your board meeting, perhaps you can give us some way of coming back with an explanation on how, at the board, you decide how to get the schools rounded up in order for them to.
The board has nothing to do with the booking of the schools.
then the board has to make a recommendation to the constable that's responsible. And that would be your responsibility to make that, so that within the next short period of time, we can get a response back. And I'm quite willing to give you the 5,000, but there's 6 or 7 schools in Durham, well, there's, I don't know, it doesn't matter, 5, 6, 7, it doesn't matter. But, okay, six schools. I think that with 6 schools, you've got 3 of them. I think the other 3 need to get
I have
on the list.
done it in the past, talking to the other schools, but I don't think it's my place.
But I think this is your responsibility as a board. Yeah.
I said I'm doing a survey. I did
Right.
not say...
So I think as a board, I think you have to come back with some recommendations to your constables in order to get the schools on board, and then come back again, because they may forget, or they've got a lot of other things in their plans. If you just connect again and see, are you guys interested or not? But don't just let them hang, because it does get forgotten. So I think if you just...
Phone calls I made last week, they said that they were interested. Well, what's the process? How do I do it? So, I mean, and I'm talking to the principal, whether, and this is what I don't know. I don't know whether the principal organizes all this, or whether each student, each grade teacher organizes it.
Well, then that's part of your responsibility to find out.
I don't know what.
Yeah. So if you just come back with...
What the constable tells me, she sends the information to the principal and to the teacher.
Right, right. And that's perfect, and that's the way it should be. But there needs to be a follow-up.
Yeah.
And then if they don't respond, another follow-up. There needs to be a couple or 2 or 3 follow-ups. Then get the schools on board, because that's where the problem lies, is communication. And they're not communicating back and forth, and they need to. But I think Councillor Watton's suggestion or motion is a good one, and I would be willing to follow through on that if you follow that up with the recommendations that I just followed, to take it back to the board and get some transparency going with the board and communication. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to get the clerk, Nicole, to read the, Ms. Wellsbury, to read the motion before we vote on it.
Here's what I have. Whereas the township received the information that was requested from the Kids Safety Village, and whereas the amount requested was already approved in the 2016 budget, be it resolved that the funds be released to the Kids Safety Village.
Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Perfect.
Carried. Thank you very much, Lennis.
Thank you very much.
You got your answer. Now, keep doing the good work, and thank you for updating us, and whatever we can do to help collaborate the message. It's bouncing down the stairs.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lennis.
Thanks, sorry.
I'm sorry, but I've been involved in this project from the very beginning, and it's close to my heart, and I get very, very frustrated when people don't look at their machine and don't do it. I mean, we've had a few years ago, we had the teacher strike, which of course sets things back, and all this type of stuff, so, but we're trying to get the fire departments in.
Yep.
Thank you for your support.
Okay,
Thank
thanks very
you.
much, Lennis. Okay, next up, I'd like to call on Mark Turney, VP of Operations of Viridian Connections, and Leonard Allen from President Solera Sustainable Energies Company for deputation on Scuog Recreational Community Center Solar Project. Up to the front here, you guys, gentlemen, can come up here, and Ms. Frey is just getting the presentation ready for you. And just as a reminder, when you guys are speaking through the mic, just make sure the button is pushed down on the base, so that, and you can pull the goosenecks towards you, so.
If and...
Afternoon. Welcome. Mr. Mayor, members of council, pleasure to be here. Leonard Allen and Mark Turney. We're here today to talk about an opportunity on the Scugog Arena and Community Center for the deployment of solar panels on the rooftop to generate value for the municipality. Our presentation will go, roughly 10 minutes, perhaps less, then we'll have some questions and answers. Yeah. Starting right off with Meridian, Mark.
Yes, I think you probably have heard of us. We're the electricity distributor in 9 municipalities, in various municipalities across Ontario. Scugog, the main portion of town being one of them. And we've recently expanded our business operation to include investments in renewable distributed electricity generation. And we've made an investment in our own roof in Ajax with a 240 kilowatt rooftop system. And we've done some other projects as a result of that project with Solera, including projects in Pickering. And we're putting some applications in on this round of the feed-in tariff program with other municipalities such as Prince Edward County and Cobourg.
Okay, thank you. Slides. Our company, Solera, I founded this company back in 1991. I was building a home just up on Old Simcoe Road. I'm in the township. I've been here since 1985. The home that I still live in, 10 minutes up on Old Simcoe Road, was one of the very first solar-powered houses in the country. As a business owner, I've always been out to set an example and lead. And that's what we've done as a company. We've achieved many great milestones since that house was solar-powered, with some of the largest projects in the country, some of the most notable projects in the early days of solar power emerging. And we have a host of clients, municipal, industrial, and private. So regarding rooftop solar, just a few photos quickly. The upper left is a project that Solera and Meridian have completed most recently. It's on the Claremont Community Center and Fire Hall. It's a 100 kilowatt project that was developed really in partnership with the City of Pickering. They've granted us a license to be on that roof for a 20-year term, and they receive financial value and obviously ecological value from that project. Lower left, a large arena project in the London, the London Western Fair. Upper right, Mark referred earlier to the head office of their company in Ajax. That's what the roof looks like. It's covered with 140 kilowatts of solar. And just a typical private sector project, Planters Peanuts in the lower right. So that's what these look like. We've all seen solar panels, and what we're proposing I'll get to in a moment on the arena rooftop. The feed-in tariff version 5, it started in 2010. We're now at the 5th iteration of the program. It actually has opened today, accepting applications for new projects, and it closes on November the 25th. The rates that are being paid are 20.7 cents per kilowatt hour of electricity generated. The typical homeowner rate for electricity or commercial rate is in the order of 14 to 15 cents today. So the rate being paid is no longer that exorbitant price that many thought it was in the early days. We all heard about the 80 cents for solar. Those days are gone. We're actually approaching the cost of electricity quite quickly now. There is a structure that the Ontario government's put together. This is all administered through the Independent Electricity System Operator, the IESO, formerly the OPA. So they manage the feed-in tariff process, and they've implemented a bonus point system for prioritization of applications. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. The project's on the Scugog Arena. The roof lease, the opportunity is to lease the roof to Meridian and Solera, as well as have an opportunity post-construction to invest in the project and garner more return from the project as a equity owner. The way the project looks, that's of course the aerial view of the facility. Subject to detailed engineering, which is yet to be done, we're projecting 525 kilowatts of PV solar generation on that roof, and that's sufficient to give you a sense of what that can power. Sufficient for many dozens of houses, somewhere in the order of 60 homes or so. So very substantial power generator, very substantial contributor to the electric grid and the offset of greenhouse gas emissions. The financial value from the roof lease, which is a 20-year term, fixed contract for 20 years, will be $8,400 per year, based upon the size that we're projecting on that roof. The option to invest in the project post-construction would bring the municipality returns in the order of 9% on your capital. Okay. So the relationship can take, the project can take the form of a straight roof lease, where Viridian Solera own, operate the project, take all the risk, and you receive the $8,400 per year, flat rate, 20 years. So very predictable, stable, no risk. That's why a lot of municipalities like this, rather than trying to do such a project on their own. The joint venture opportunity, a typical example of what we've implemented with other municipalities, is a 15% ownership stake by the municipality. Solera, our company, normally has an equity stake alongside the Viridian and the municipality. And Viridian would be the majority owner of the project and act as the manager of the project. As a public utility in Ontario, that's a very solid, obviously a very solid party managing such a project in the power generation business. And once again, the municipality does not have to decide now if you wanted to put equity into the project. It can happen after you've seen it's successful, constructed, doing what it's supposed to do. Okay. The benefits are fairly self-explanatory. Financial benefits, the environmental benefits are quantifiable and can be become part of the municipality's marketing and in environmental preservation. The business case is strong. It's very low risk. The investment can be variable, as low as zero. The roof is not being used for other purposes, as most rooftops are not on buildings. They're single-purpose things, and we feel that it makes the most sense to put solar on rooftops rather than large solar farms covering acres and acres of land. Buildings consume the power. It's the best place to generate the power. And partnered with Viridian and an established solar company for 25 years, we deliver a solid value proposition. The one thing we didn't actually get to here was the point system. I might have not had a slide in there. I wanted to just talk about the points. I think we should mention this, Mark. Or do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I referred to a point system that the IESO has implemented. The way it works is that there's typically been more applications for projects than there have been room to award projects. So the idea is in the prioritization process that's been implemented, we want to have our applications, on the top. And what's been implemented is a point system whereby if municipal council grants a support resolution specifically for the purposes of solar on a rooftop, that's worth 2 priority points, 2 out of 6 total. Another point is awarded if it is a municipally owned site, which it is. And that's 3 points. And we feel that 3 points is sufficient to be in the top of the pile. There's no guarantees, but any less than 3 would not drive a successful application, we don't feel. There are 3 more points available to be awarded if the feed-in tariff price, the 20.7 cents, is bid down So if we bid down 4%, we're awarded a point. 8%, 2 points, 12%, 3 points. We don't want to do that because these projects are economically tight as it is under this fit rate. So the optimal structure is 2 points achieved by municipal council support for the project and the 1 for the site host. Okay, so that brings us to what our ask is. The application window is open now, so we are looking to ask the town to sign a roof lease that is a document that has to be enacted to allow us to apply for a fit contract. There has to be secure access rights to the roof, and that is evidenced by form of a roof lease. That and a municipal council support resolution is what the ask is at this point. And Mark, did you want to speak about the recent learnings on the grid capacity?
Yes, we just want to make you aware that in our process of preparing for an application, it's come to our realization that there is currently a restriction on the feeder that we would be connecting to, which would prohibit us from connecting today. We would like to proceed with what we've asked council to consider today, on the chance that this restriction gets lifted prior to the window closing. If it doesn't get lifted, all is not lost. There is a new emerging business model for rooftop solar that we could come back and talk to staff about and eventually make a presentation to council as well. But our first priority would be to go ahead and make this Fit 5 application if the feeder restriction is in fact lifted.
Yep.
So I think that's our presentation. We'd be happy to take any questions.
I have several questions, but I'll go to the rest of council first. Councillor Kett? By the way, thank you for the presentation. It answered many of the questions I had before your presentation, so.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your presentation. I just got a few questions. I guess it's too bad that we didn't go through section by section. But we're talking about a lease for the roof of our community center. Now, would that be just like, I see that you wanted $8,400, but would there be a percentage lease on top of that, that if you generated more, then we would get? Like, that's a 20-year lease. Like, is it going to be graduated, or is it going to be a percentage of, or could it be either or?
Okay. So what we presented, the $8,400, is based upon full roof coverage of solar, which is expected but yet to be absolutely confirmed. And that's a fixed price annually over 20 years. And what that does is deliver that certainty to the town, whereas in actuality, the output from the system does decline year over year, between 0.5% to 1%. So we actually have a lesser income to work with because the feed-in tariff rate is also fixed. Other municipalities do like the idea of a fixed, bankable, predictable price that isn't going to change. If you wanted to have it a different way, you'd be subjecting yourself to that risk of lesser performance. Okay. Yes, there could be upside as well, but the greater risk is that if we have bad years of weather, whatever, the bigger risk is that it's not going to generate what's expected.
I don't know if you've ever thought about politics, but I guess what I was trying to say is our money going to change from $8,400 over 20 years? Can we expect to get more?
No.
Because we look at the hydro prices are going up and up and up.
Right.
So I guess, so a yes or no would, I guess, be okay.
Okay. No, it's a fixed price.
Okay, so your proposal is fixed. All right. You mentioned, it's hard to sort of bring, I don't know if you can bring up your return option if it was a partnership?
I don't think, we didn't break that out.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was gonna
I'm sorry,
question you.
what we're...
Just at the bottom of this one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the common structure that we offer, and that has been implemented with various municipalities, is that the municipality becomes a 15% equity participant. You're right, we did have a slide that showed, there it is right there, my apologies. Post-construction. And in this instance, the municipal investment would be in the order of $30,000, okay? And return in the order of $80,000 over that 20-year term. So I think maybe that's what you're referring to, that variable element?
No.
No? Okay.
No, this was a separate question.
Okay.
No, so we would have a $30,000 investment in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's, like, obviously, you're financing that project, the whole project?
Yeah, that's...
So,
yeah.
our 30% would be of a deposit or down payment, let's say?
Yeah, what it is, the project has a capital value.
Right.
Let's call it $1 million. It's
Yeah.
in the order of that.
Yeah.
We normally obtain 80% long-term debt financing,
Yeah.
leaving a 20% equity portion that the participants put the capital into. So from a municipality's perspective, you'd be looking at 15% of that 20%, okay, which is in the order of $30,000.
Okay, you have a performer all put together.
Yes, we do, yeah.
And the benefits to the community
Mhm.
are the $8,400 a year?
From the flat roof lease, yes, and then the upside, the 9% return on capital that you put into the project if you choose to be an owner.
But if we choose not to be,
Then
then the
it's
only benefit is $8,400 a year.
That's right, as well as the environmental benefits. Okay, and those are quantifiable and can be quantified and shown and marketed, if you will. It's a value to the public at large to have sustainable energy implemented.
And do you have those quantified?
Not here today, but they are.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. The only other thing, or a couple of, the thing that I'm really interested in, I guess, is the engineering. Like, do we know that we can actually even do this?
So before we apply to put an application into the IESO, we have to have a structural review done to confirm that, yes, the roof structure can accept the load.
So can I, Craig, have we done that? I know we were looking at doing that. Was that ever done?
Through the mayor, we did hire BBA to do a structural audit of the facility. We're just waiting the results, but we haven't heard anything negative so far, so we're going ahead with thinking that it'll be okay.
And we should get that.
Hopefully within the next week or so.
Okay. So that'll help out. The last question I have, sorry, Mayor, but the last question I have is, I was sort of confused on a restriction that was supposed to be lifted or had to be lifted. If you could explain that for me?
Sure. There's a connection impact assessment that has to be done with Hydro One, and they check to make sure that their distribution system, their electricity distribution system, can handle having a generator connected to the system. All the upstream protection devices have to still be able to function with this new generation asset connected downstream. And right now there's a problem on the feeder where they've got too much generation, and they either have to make an investment in the upstream to allow it, or there's some other things that can be removed that are there today that would allow the system to be connected. We can also work with Hydro One to see if we can have the feeder switched and perhaps be able to connect to a different feeder that doesn't have that restriction.
So, to help me understand, do we have to lift this restriction, or does Hydro One?
No, it's the independent electricity system operator that is acting on behalf of Hydro One by saying there's a restriction there. They have to lift it.
Okay, that's great. It's a very exciting project. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming today. Yes, it's a very interesting project. I just have a couple questions regarding if we were to do the 15% investment. So the return on investment, so $30,000 investment, is the $80,000 net or is it 50?
It'd be the 80 less the investment, so 50. That's
50?
right, yeah.
And that's over the 20 years,
Yes,
or?
yeah.
Okay. But then we would also receive the $8,400 a year?
Yeah.
Okay. And just a note, this is a GPA, so I don't know if that affects you with your putting in your application, but even if it's passed today, it still has to go through the formal council, which is a week or two away. And did you look at any other opportunities with our other municipal buildings? Because it would be sort of nice if we could actually get more than one building and have a higher
Yeah,
income.
we focused on this one because it has the roof that's the size that allows economy of scale and provides some financial numbers that are, you know, interesting. We did look at some other ones, Craig, some smaller roofs, but they would be a so-called microfit, 10 kilowatt system.
Yeah.
And we have not put anything forth on those.
Okay, so even the Blackstock Arena wouldn't have?
I think that was an older roof.
Yeah.
Put anything on that roof.
Yeah.
It might hasten the renovation. And our two fire halls,
We find them too small to be feasible under the very low fit price, the 20.7 cents. Actually, it would be 22 cents for the smaller projects, roughly. It doesn't drive the opportunity to pay a roof lease. There is an opportunity for the town to drive return on investment. And I think we've had a cursory look at those, Craig, and we didn't provide a report on those specifically for presentation, but we can do so.
And does your company do microfit as well, or?
Yes.
Okay, so if this goes over well, would you consider putting microfit on our other buildings?
Yes, we did the library, as a matter of fact, when it was, the reno was, 5 years ago now? So that's the project we did on that roof, which is a 10 kilowatt microfit, so yes, we would, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Watt?
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, how many of these projects, or have you looked at other projects, and how many times have they told you that there's a restriction to the feeder program? Because I know for the microfit, for example, the community center in Nestleton, they were told there was a restriction. I just wonder how often you encounter that.
Yeah.
When you look at the table that they put out with the listed feeders that are restricted, I would say about 10% roughly are restricted. Just off the top of my head, we could go and, actually
I'm just
look,
more curious
but roughly 1 in 10.
Seems a bit convenient to me to have all these, especially, I know for several in our area in the township that we've been told that, so.
Yeah, and there are, Hydro One is performing upgrades to various transformer stations around the province, and that will alleviate those issues, but, we have to deal with these.
Do you know if we're on the list?
I don't.
No, we don't, no.
Any other councillors? All right, Councillor Somerville?
Just a couple of questions, because you've answered a lot of my questions. And thank you for your presentation, because it's really an interesting presentation that you've given us today. Just the size of the arena, how many kilowatts would you produce? Would that just depend on the sun that year? Like I'm saying for a year, perhaps?
Yeah, how many kilowatt hours, I think. Yeah. So if we're talking, roughly 500 kilowatts on the roof, the multiplier for that site would be roughly, multiply that by 1,100. And that would be the annual kilowatt hours. Okay, and I think Mark's going to do a quick bit of math right here.
Is that based on 3.1 hours per day, on average?
Sun hours per day? Yeah, we go on, use a different way of factoring it. Roughly, I think, yes. But the modeling is done, we use, sophisticated investment-grade software that models the electrical yield of such projects. And that's, we can work that back to an equivalent sun hours per day. If you want to see it that way, we can certainly provide that.
That'd be the number of kilowatt hours.
Okay, so about 600,000 kilowatt hours per annum it'll generate.
And did you say the average per day is 3.5 or 5.5?
Mayor was referring to the equivalent number of sun hours
Yes.
required to produce that. We can provide that number. I think it works back to around 3.
3.5. That's interesting.
You know, we'll provide that number to Craig, just so you have. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that the library, I'm on the library board, so I'm quite aware of how much they get from the microfit. And theirs isn't very big. There's a very small microfit. Can the same thing happen over there with the microfit or not? Does this help me understand this, because I need some education on.
Sure. The microfit is designed for systems at a maximum size of 10 kilowatts. That's the generation, the nameplate capacity of the system, which is fine, but that would take a tiny fraction of the roof space that's available in the arena. Hence, you would have a very small financial return. Our position is that if you can utilize all the roof space, we have dozens of examples all over the province of maximizing use of roof to maximize financial return and environmental value. It's more green energy on the grid, so bigger is always better in these projects.
This system would be about 50 times larger than what's on the roof of the library.
50 times larger.
Yeah.
Is that, again, I need some education, is that the 15% or like for the microfit, or is that a specific microfit? Just help me, you explained it, but again, just...
So the microfit is up to 10 kilowatts.
Okay.
And that's what's on the library.
Yeah.
If you want to put a bigger project on a bigger roof, it cannot be a microfit. It would be, has to be a fit.
Oh, it has to be a proper fit, okay.
Yes.
So a smaller building. But, like, just say this building here.
Yep.
Would it be microfit?
Yep. Yep. Now, it may be able to host more than 10 kilowatts, but the economics will be poor because if you say it hosted 20 kilowatts, which means it has to be a fit. The problem is the fit price is quite a bit lower than the microfit price. So it won't pay economically to put, 20 kilowatts on the roof. It'll pay better to put 10 kilowatts on the roof and have a higher payment per kilowatt hour.
What is their payment?
For microfits? It's in the order of 24 cents.
I thought it was around that, yeah. In the construction of this, to put the microfit, or to put the solar panels on the roof of the arena, that's a big undertaking all on its own. Because they're constantly improving the solar panels, will this still be okay in 20 years from now, or will you have to do a renewable type of a solar energy?
So municipal entities look at these as 20-year projects. We just finished a 600 kilowatt project on the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex. It was just connected about a month ago. And this is a project that Solera had worked directly with the city on. It didn't involve Viridian, but all the other arenas that we're doing are with Viridian. And the driving element there that municipalities like is that they're dealing with a municipal counterparty, a public utility. They've got technology that's warranted for 25 years. That's the warranty on power output from the solar panels from these global manufacturers. So yes, there'll be perhaps fantastically better solar technology 20 years down the road, but it certainly, you won't have a government paying you nearly 21 cents a kilowatt hour to have it, after the FIT contract. So the way to look at it today is the FIT program is designed to provide a return on investment in the order of 10%. And if you can rationalize that as a good return on investment, then you put the system on, you enjoy that for 20 years. After 20 years, there's still a good 10 years of operational life left in that solar array. And what the proposal is that the connection would be moved from one side of the electrical meter to the other side, because there's no more FIT program. The 20-year contract is up. But then all that electricity from this, solar generator, which is still about 85% efficient, would be consumed within the building, and make a very significant contribution to what the building would consume. Okay.
At the end of the road, at 20 years, who's responsible for that? Will you, will you be taking it out, or will you be making sure that it's perfect?
Yeah, so the lease agreement, of which we provided a draft, says that our responsibility at the end of the term is to remove it, and obviously make good any issues on the roof. It's a metal roof, so it literally clamps to the roof. It unclamps, and it's off.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I just got education.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try and make this short. That was one of my questions about after the 20 years, based on the rate we're going, it'll be probably more beneficial to have that switch to be self-sufficient there.
We call it behind the meter.
Behind the meter.
Point, yeah.
Because, I mean, we look at where we're at now, and 20 years from now, I can only imagine what the cost per kilowatt is. And,
yeah.
So this, you referenced this 500 kilowatts, or 525 kilowatts. What happens when it goes over 500? Because I only see that FIT goes up to 500, and then above that,
yep.
Is it per building here, or?
No, it's a great question. There is a AC rating, and there's a DC rating. So the maximum kilowatts allowed to be injected into the grid is 500. That's AC. The solar array is a DC generator. It's allowed to be maximum 20% larger than the AC rating. So we do strive for 600 kilowatts on the roof, 500 into the grid, and that optimizes and maximizes the system.
So we get FIT tariff paid on the AC or the DC?
Yes, on the AC. However, if there's more DC on the roof, there's more kilowatt hours being pushed through the pipe, if you will.
Right. Okay. The panels, the picture, the aerial photo that you had was showing it just on the arena pads, not on the community hall?
Yeah.
Community rec center?
Yeah. And the question, of course, is why not on that
well,
center
both.
Roof?
One, aesthetics, maybe not. The two is it's a pitched roof versus a flat roof.
And pitched roofs are fine. It's just a very small amount of usable space that faces south, which is the optimal place to put it. So.
But that wasn't planned on with this undertaking,
no,
not to that.
The plan is the large open roofs.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question was regarding the angle of these panels, because you see some that are elevated and angled to get to maximize the energy. However, are these planned? I mean, I'm just trying to visualize. Are they going to be visible from the road, or are they going to be more on a what's the angle of inclination?
Virtually invisible. We do strive to angle if possible, but the building has to have a greater degree of structural capability because there's some additional wind loads if they're angled. So that's what the final engineering determines. We get a little bit more yield if it's angled, but we do have other examples, other arenas we've done where they're flat to the roof. Okay, so that's what the final engineering determines.
Okay, and you estimated, just ballpark $1 million, and I was trying to do the math earlier on, and I was multiplying out the 525 kilowatts, but that was DC, right? That not AC, but you're multiplying it out here. I was just trying to figure out on how that equity ownership worked out to the 50,000 from the 31,000. But I know it has to be net out the lease costs and net out the carrying costs of the debt financing.
Yeah.
So am I interpreting this correctly, is that the overall returns, net returns of carrying costs is split 70-15-15, right? If
yes.
that equity ownership was done.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that how it's laid out, an agreement that is done that way, that it's done as like a shared ownership in the financial statements?
Yeah, do you want to speak to the MOU?
Yeah, it's a joint venture model that we're proposing, where we would have a joint venture agreement that the three of us would enter into, the Scugog, Solera, and Viridian. And right now, what would be signed is a memorandum of understanding that says you're entitled to buy in to the equity position in the project when it reaches commercial operation. And again, we have an MOU that a number of municipalities have looked at and have signed off on.
Okay, now, the other municipalities that you've partnered up with, have they been municipalities that have used their PUC, or there's been the township, municipality itself?
It's been the municipality itself in, as far as the MOU goes.
Well, more so with the break, I don't know if they've all had a private company as part of the mix as opposed to a public. And I just didn't know if that drew a red flag because of the Municipal Act and equity ownership in a private corporation. You have to wholly own, but you can not wholly own if it's another public or utility organization.
Yes, we haven't run into the issue where the municipalities had any problem being a equity partner.
So that, I'm just asking, has it been done elsewhere where the municipality and a private sector is part owner of this organization? I just want to give you a heads up, we don't want to go down this road and find out it's not possible. And the reason why we know this is a concern is because of other initiatives that we're looking into for the municipality where we're offside if we don't wholly own or partnership with other public entities. So it can't even be done in a subsidiary, it'd have to be done in a separate corporation. So
I know the city of Belleville is one of the partners that we've worked with, and they've gone through a legal review. In fact, their lawyer put together the agreement that brought the city of Belleville into the partnership with us. So...
And Solera, right?
And,
yeah, okay. Okay, well, that would be one thing that's just we would obviously would be a hurdle to make sure we're satisfied with. I mean, and what I see before us is this resolution that is in order to move forward with the FIT project, considering there's a narrow application window. But obviously, if we come across a hurdle that's down there, it would have to be conditional on the legal satisfaction for that. And then the other question I had was, you already answered the off-grid option there. The return of 9%, you're basing it just on the equity portion. Is the funding model done from, say, Infrastructure Ontario, or is it done through private sector? I'm just wondering what interest rates are used on a business case.
We've been using an interest rate of 5% on our modeling. We hope to be able to do better than that, and the joint venture would then all benefit from that. We haven't used Infrastructure Ontario because we do have a private sector partner as part of our venture, and IO won't finance unless it's 100% public.
Okay, and the other question, the right to purchase in after construction, I think you said 2018 that was on there. 15%, is that what it's capped at, or is that, where did 15% come from, I guess?
It comes from working with the other municipalities, and it seems to be the most popular amount. We have gone up to 25% municipal ownership with other municipalities, and then as low as 0 where they just want the roof lease.
And I guess why I'm asking is because this council is looking for additional or alternative revenue sources, and to me, this is one that we've been wanting to see come forward, so we're very happy to see it come forward at this stage, but we would also want to maximize whatever equity position, or at least have that presented as an income stream, because we're constantly looking for taking the strains off of the residential taxpayer. And if this is one that is through a FIT program, we all know if it's 20-year guaranteed by the province, then this is the type of revenue source that we would like to have on our books. So, and again, I probably did some errors in the math, but I was trying to figure out how the numbers worked out to, if 70% was $140,000 investment, 15% were each $30,000, it's $200,000 investment of the $1 million investment, so for build, but over a 20.7 per kilowatt hour times 525 kilowatt hours, which I didn't adjust for AC, times what I saw was an average used by the industry, 3.1 hours per day times 365 days times 20 years, was $2.4 million. Now, obviously, that's the future value of, or not even the future value, that's the simple value of that calculation, and then the carrying costs have to come off of that based on whatever interest rate. So I was trying to work backwards on some math, and that's where I would want to break out the details, seeing this for the first time. That basically, on the numbers that you were saying with a 9% per year, the only return that's coming out of there besides net of the roof lease is money is only going to those three partners, right?
Yep. Correct.
So it doesn't matter based on the math, it's only going in those three, except for the private or the funding partner.
Yep.
So the funding partner, is that funded from Solera, or is it funded from banks, or what's the?
Typically, it would be a bank loan that we would take out, and, so we collect the revenue off the system, and then we pay the bills, and what's left out of the money gets split between the three partners based on our ownership.
What's the average like, I know the interest cost and the lease cost, roof cost, is there maintenance that's ongoing?
Yes, there's OM&A as well on the system itself.
Is it a significant percentage of it?
Well, it's in the order of, for this size of a project, would be in the order of $10,000 to $12,000 per year.
And but repairs and maintenance on any other, like?
That would include the repairs and maintenance on the system, yeah.
And there's insurance as well,
Right.
insurance.
So this would be covered over and above of our own insurance policy, it's an extra...
Correct.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from council? I think that answers... Councillor Watt.
Just with respect to the recommendation, number 2, and I think I've moved the recommendation when we get to it, but I'm just curious what it would look like if we approve the recommendation, and then I'd like to have a clause put in that it's subject to the structural audit showing that it is the roof can support the panels, because I don't want to get into a lot of great expense to fix a roof to make it able to support the panels.
Okay, I don't know if that was built in somewhere in the lease agreement, or...
We can comment on that.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, that's built into our development cost. If it's, the municipality can come in as an equity participant post-construction, but you do not have to incur any capital cost in the development process. So we look after the structural reviews and confirmation as a third-party professional structural engineer. And in fact, we have to do that preliminarily to the satisfaction of the IASO to even submit a application for a FIT contract. And then before construction, there's the deep detail engineering review. And that those documentations are, of course, shared with the municipality.
So if I may then, who hired Barry Bryan Associates to do the structural audit, and who's paying for that? If what you're saying, it falls into your purview, are we, so I'll ask Mr. Belfry.
To the councillor, we hired Barry Bryan. The roof was one component of the audits we had to do. We had to do overall, structural audits of both facilities. We did one at Scugog Rec Center and one in Blackstock. So the roof was one component of it, but legal requirements for arenas, we have to do full structural audits. So we just incorporated that as part of what we do every 10 years.
Okay, so further to that, since we have done that, you would still be required to do your own?
We would, because it's specific to the loads that are imposed by the solar panels on the roof. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just another question, which I just want to make sure it gets addressed, and this isn't really particularly for you, but it's more for the rest of council to understand. I just want to make sure what our procurement policies and bylaws require us to do, and I know if we're not outlaying any money, we don't have to be subject to that, but if we're looking at an equity stake possibly down the road, I just want to make sure that we are aware of that, and I know that we could decide to, council could sole source that or decide to at that time. So just looking maybe Paul or who can give me that answer on that.
I think Diane can answer that.
Thank you. I believe through our current policy that we would look into this, but it should be viable to go forward.
Okay.
As a sole source, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were not going down a road too far and then realize that we needed to do further checks and balances on that, so. Okay, any other questions, Councillor Watton?
Just one further question then. If we approve these recommendations and then the restrictions to the feeder program, we're not obligated by any means to move forward on this then? Is that, like, you won't move forward if the feeder, is there a timeline for that? I guess that's the
timeline will be the fit window opening, so either they'll lift the restriction before November 25 and we apply,
okay,
or they don't and we can't apply.
Oh.
And then we'll come back and let you know.
So you can't, right now though, even though we approve it, you cannot apply as it sits right now.
Correct.
You just want to be ready to submit it.
Absolutely correct.
This is new information that's just come out.
Right,
so
okay.
It's unfortunately, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Kett?
Thank you. Will it hinder your application if we have a condition in there, the subject to engineering?
It won't, because we have to do the engineering anyways, to make sure it can handle the load.
Like, obviously, we don't want to get into something that... No. All right, that's great.
Okay. So, just so I'm clear on this, we don't have any amendments to the motion that's put before us, right? It's there as it's read, and this is mainly a support resolution to help in the application process, and that we support, supports the construction operation of the project on the land, so.
Just to clarify, are we considering only the support resolution right now, or all of the recommendations within Mr. Belfry's report?
My apologies. So the recommendations were that the council indicates support, which is the one that was just referred to, with that resolution as the attachment, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute a rooftop solar panel lease agreement for the Scugog Community Rec Center project, provided such agreement is acceptable to the municipal solicitor, which was already addressed, or will be addressed, and the Viridian Connections and Solera Sustainable Energies Company be advised of council's decision. That is what we have before us, that Councillor Watton has moved those three recommendation, or those three parts of the recommendation, the recommended motions. And the only thing is if we're adding any other qualifying, the only part that I would be saying is just the lease agreement for the Scugog Community Rec Center project, provided acceptable to municipal solicitor. It doesn't reference the approval of the application of the FIT project. We talked about a secondary business plan on all that, and I just wondered if this is clear enough on that secondary step. So,
secondary step being if we don't have the restriction removed and we can't apply, then that roof lease would be null and void, because it's only set for the FIT 5 program. So if we had to come back to you with an alternate business arrangement, then it would be a new start, and we can talk about what that might look like.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't capturing that as a full approval. Okay, Councillor Back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. If everything's a go and you are able to apply and you're successful in the grant, what would the timeline be for installation and being on grid?
It would be third quarter 2018.
Okay, so then really we don't need to be considering the investment of the 1 or the 15% just yet anyhow, because we can pause and maybe have that in our 2018 budget?
That's correct.
Okay.
just because it was mentioned on there and you referenced 15 and someone has gone as high as 25, is it in the lease agreement, the 15%, or?
No, that would be in the MOU that we signed that says upon commercial operation in 2018,
Yeah.
you're welcome to make an equity investment up to a certain percentage. So if you would like that to be 25, we can put that in the MOU.
Yes, please. Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay, well, might as well, this is on the floor. Any questions on the motion from council? Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Mayor. I just noticed on the recommendations also that attachment 1 is also included.
Yes, which is the resolution, and that's the resolution of support.
Yeah.
So, any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sending that, and
Appreciate it.
good luck on the application for the
Thank you.
project.
Thank you.
So at this time now, we are in the departmental of community services, and Betty, our Councillor Somerville, is chairing this section. And you can just chair from your chair.
My first report, has already been completed, which is thank you very much. So I guess we can go on to my next report, which is the community grant activity review, and that is on second. I gotta find it. Thank you. 015. That's where it is. Could I have someone move the recommendations for this report? Oh, Councillor Kett is okay. Would the Director of Community Services like to speak on this?
I don't have anything further to add
Yeah.
to the document itself.
Any questions from the council? Yes, Councillor Watton?
Are you doing the one on page 15?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I apologize if it kind of ran in from one report into the fifth report, so I apologize for adding that extra confusion.
Sorry, I did say that we had already completed the first one. Oh, that was a mistake, courtesy of, it was corrected in our... Okay, sorry. Any questions with regards to this, recommendations with council? Again? Do you have a question, Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Just a statement to make that there was some question on why the Ladies Auxiliary from the Legion was denied, and we actually approved that if they could show that they were separate from the Legion, but there's a rule that only one grant per community or application, and that's why that was turned down. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that information. That's okay. Any other questions? Any further questions? The community grant? Okay, I will now call a vote on this report. Everyone in favor? Thank you, it is carried. Any further questions about anything with regards to this area? No? Perfect. Then it goes to the next.
Okay, so at this time, Fire and Emergency Services, we do not have any reports, so now it's Corporate Services and Finance, Regional Councillor Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 20 of our agenda, the recommendation is there with respect to the transfer of $100,000 to Holdco MSC, Scugog Networks, Inc. Could I have a motion? Councillor Watton. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I have a letter that was sent to me from one of my constituents. I won't name him, but says, please accept the history questions below as a challenge to spending the $100,000 as per today's agenda. This is a real condensed version. You know where the ISP project is going, and I do not. That's fine, I accept the statement, so please consider introducing this in today's meeting and explain. The history is 2014 to 15, originally communicate freely, given contract to Gigabyte service for SCUGOG grant, etc., etc. Township did not go out for tender, etc., etc. 2015-16, ISP study, Laura Bradley, Gigabyte service is only available option. Communicate freely, severed ties with the township. BOD is approved, township trying to give BOD $100,000. My challenge here is that this $100,000 money will have taxpayers' money directly targeting benefiting Communicate Freely. Why? I guess that's the first question.
Councillor Kett, that $100,000 I don't believe is to benefit Communicate Freely.
I believe you're right, but this is a question from a constituent. So his comment to me on the phone was that Communicate Freely is the only ISP in town, and that's who would be benefiting. So, if anybody could answer that,
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, this $100,000 was already approved by council for this initiative back in May. We're just trying to clean up a bit of a technical problem here where we had indicated that it would be borrowed from the reserves. And we've since, it's come to our attention that that is considered long-term internal borrowing, and we cannot borrow for purposes that don't have a capital asset to back them up. So this is just kind of correcting that error to say that it's no longer something that's being borrowed from our reserve, it's simply being transferred to the MSC with no expectation of repayment to the reserve. The actual use of the money is, you might recall, for legal fees, for consulting fees for Laura Bradley to explore different options in the aftermath of the Communicate Freely deal not being successful. A large portion of that $100,000 has already been spent. This is really, again, just cleaning up a bit of a bookkeeping problem.
Thank you. That was my understanding from the report.
and I guess
further, Councillor Kett?
Yeah, I have a number here of questions here. And my understanding on this is that it was taken out of the budget in May?
It was out of the reserve.
Okay,
Not
so
the taxpayer's budget.
My question to the clerk is this allowed to come back before 6 months?
Madam Clerk?
If you're suggesting that it might be reconsideration, again, council isn't being asked to reconsider whether this $100,000 should be spent towards this project. It's just kind of changing the mechanism by which we transfer it to the MSC.
Cap?
Why is there no opportunity for constituents to have a say in this?
Anybody want to comment on that? Mr. Mayor? Councillor Watton?
Thank you. I think perhaps that letter should be considered correspondence so that it can be replied to. I'm not sure if and I agree that it could be considered today, but I don't know if it really pertains to this report by the sound of the questions that are coming out.
I would agree with you in normal situations, but if it was a public meeting, then this person would get up and speak. So I would just like to say these questions, and if there's no answer, there's no answer, but I would like to finish, okay? And I think what he's really recommending is that we have a public meeting about this, so.
Not at all, I was just recommending that we save it to correspondence.
No, not
later in this meeting.
Not you, I'm saying he. This is what he's trying to say, right? As per...
Just before you...
Yes, Councillor Kett, I just want to reference the questions that are being asked. I think the clerk has summarized it quite accurately. This is just a correction of a motion that's not like we're addressing a motion that hasn't already passed. So it was passed, it's just a matter of changing on how it flows from one corporation down to the other. These questions, the public meetings, all that's still to come forward. The Board of Directors on the Municipal Services Corporation, Scoog Fiber Inc. has been meeting every other week, and there's an executive board. There's a lot of activities been happening, and they're preparing to getting to the point on where a full report will come back, an update to council here, and then also to the public. But they didn't want to go out to public without having proper finalized information, a mature report, instead of just doing it in pieces, because there's many avenues to explore and make sure that they're properly vetted. So I think these questions could be referred for, received for information and referred to the Board of Directors. I think it would be an excellent way to get them and then referred to when we're going to have the report to the council, so they can be answered with staff input as well.
So you don't...
Thank you, Mr.
You don't want me to...
Councillor Kett, would you consider referring this letter to staff to respond, or the MSC to respond?
Absolutely, that would be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions to this report?
Yeah, I'll finish though. I have my own questions too.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to question again with the clerk on the amount of money and when it was brought in, and why we're revisiting this, I guess.
Again, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. So to go back to May 9th, there was a report from Laura Bradley, which staff did not have time to vet before it came to council. That report recommended that that the township work with the region of Durham to enable borrowing from our own reserve of this $100,000 to be transferred ultimately to OPCO so that they could explore these different types of broadband initiatives. After that resolution was passed, staff were reviewing it and trying to figure out how to flow that money to the MSCs, and we have since learned that this is not an eligible item that we can borrow for, even from our own reserves, because any kind of borrowing, even if it's internal borrowing, if it's beyond a year, is considered long-term borrowing, which creates long-term internal debt, and we cannot issue debt for anything that's not a capital type purchase. This is not being used for capital purposes, so it can't be characterized as borrowing. So this is just correcting it to now characterize it as a transfer as opposed to a borrow and a loan.
So the money was already committed in May. This is not a new commitment.
Yes, I understand that, and I see. I think the main wording that we're looking at is and not to be repaid. Is that basically the issue?
Yes, that's one of the issues, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, Chair. So I do have a concern. When council initially approved us borrowing $100,000 from the hydro reserve, council approved that on the notion of it being repaid eventually. As a loan or borrowing usually means you're going to repay it. And I know this looks like a simple cleanup procedure here, but there's a new contingent that it's not to be expected to be repaid, and that was not brought forth to council when we initially approved it. So I have a little bit of concern here where there's no expectation to repay.
Mayor?
I can certainly tell you my opinion on it, but it's also the understanding of how this long-term vision for the MSC is to operate, and that is to make sure that it through its business case analysis, stands on its own 2 feet and does focus on paying back municipality money that has been granted to it. So we can't use the terms loans, but it's just not a formal commitment. So it's something that is part of the visioning exercises that I've definitely put forward, is that want it to be more than just a repayment on it. I see it as being an additional revenue stream, much like the FIT project is here. So that's really the goal with having solving many problems with the rural internet, as well as the urban-rural divide, and also create an opportunity to not only pay back any gifts that have been made from the municipality to the operations. And remember, the operating is 100% owned by the HoldCo, 100% owned by the municipality, which is 100% owned, HoldCo 100% owns the OpCo. So it's all still owned by the municipality. It's just because they're corporations, they're treated separately.
Further, Councillor Back?
Thank you. Is there any way, I guess this question is to the clerk, is there any way that this recommendation can be, anything added to it, to state that when, if and when this project gets up and running and is starting to turn a profit, that this will be returned? Because I know there's a lot of residents that are a little skeptical, to say the least, on this project, and if we're continually using funds and now we have no expectation to repay, I don't think that's going to go over well with the residents.
Madam Clerk? We can always amend the resolution, but we want to know the legality.
I just want to add, from having conversations with our legal counsel, we're on the same page for making sure that the public perception of this is that it's just not throwing money at something that doesn't have a reasonable chance of success. I've said that all along, that it has to stand on its own 2 feet. We don't want to go, I wouldn't be spending countless hours going through this process if it didn't have a high degree possibility of success, as well as the loan provisions. I want to be careful, without getting legal input on it, that we don't characterize it as a loan with adding extra verbiage to it that treats it as a gift qualified to be a loan. So that's why this came back the way it did, so that it's completely free of strings, and then the municipal legal is satisfied with it, that we're on side. And it's not that we don't want to have any sort of issues with being offside with the Municipal Act and loans, and then the regional involvement with going through a process, and it'll just add more costs on it. If we have to approve it as a loan, then we have to go to the region and get the approvals there, and then it just adds on more costs. So we're trying to do this as efficiently as possible with the least amount of additional costs.
Any further?
Thank you. Perhaps if you're using the word gift, the word gift can be in the recommendation or in the motion, and that the HoldCo will re-gift the township reserve.
Is that a question or a comment? Thank you. I think the hesitation is here because, and I have concerns as well, as everybody knows. I have concerns about taking money out of that. This is not new money, but I think it all stems from the fact that we have not had an update, and so I think we're just a little reluctant because we don't know how successful this has the opportunity to be. So I think that's why you're getting the questions that we're getting today. So, Councillor Watton?
Thank you. I'm just curious if the terms of reference of the two corporations would not outline something suggesting that it's paid anyway, repaid. I don't know. I don't remember what they said.
Mayor?
And I can't recollect the the items, but no matter what, on how the corporation is created, it's Municipal Act requirements, so we can't circumvent that even if it's laid out in a report or suggestion, et cetera. So, and I do appreciate the lack of understanding on the progress on where this is at the board. The Scugog Fiber Inc., we have been working very diligently to come forward with a report and update, because understanding that there's been a significant amount of time that has passed, and I assure you there's been a lot of work that's been done behind the council's, let's say, outside of council meetings, but at the executive board meetings or the board meetings of Scugog Fiber Inc., as well as including our legal representatives and the consultant. So I'm looking forward to that complete report coming. It was questioned at the board whether we would have an interim update, but there were certain variables that still were waiting to be decided on our options, and we didn't want to necessarily spend a great deal of time on update on something that may not receive final support from the board of directors of that corporation. So I do get a sense that we are nearing that we'll have an update. I think we had set the target by, I don't know if we're on the end of November agenda or not, but we had said an update around November, December, before the end of this year, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watton?
Further to that, then, how imperative is it that this recommendation get approved today prior to an update for council?
Madam Clerk? CIO?
I'll answer it. So
Okay. Mayor?
the reason why it's imperative is because this is the last stumbling block to be able to finalize the corporation. It's created, but we can't flow the money out of the corporation, and for proper accountability, and the corporation, which is undertaking all these, incurring these costs with legal and the consultant, right now the township is having to pay on behalf of the corporation, so it doesn't keep a clean set of books. We need to transfer all that through to the OPCO. So it's already been approved, it's already been incurring expenses, but right now it's been band-aided through a process that isn't as clean as it should be, so we want to be able to transfer all those transactions down to the OPCO. It's not going to change whether they've been incurred or not, because it's all based on the approval of the May resolution. So ideally, this is something this is the last piece really for our Secretary of Matthew McKenzie to actually implement in order for it to be complete, and then bank accounts could be opened, but it can't open bank accounts without having the corporation set up properly with the share structure, etc. So it's all contingent on this resolution being cleaned up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Further? Anybody else? Councillor Somerville?
Yes, just one quick question. Has this been approved by the region for the finances?
Mayor? Clerk? Who wants to answer this?
So the way that it's being proposed here does not require approval from the region of Durham.
But then it has to go to the region after this, does it not?
Any type of borrowing that happens as a result of the direction the board and council ultimately decides to go will require some regional approvals, but this particular step does not.
Okay, thank you. Was my question.
Any further questions or comments? Mr. Thiel?
I could add, just maybe hearing the discussion might be able to add some clarity. My understanding, the original 100,000, yes, was to be a loan and then paid back through the dividends of the MSC. And in this case, because we found it can't be a loan, you're transferring the same 100,000 with the ideal that that 100,000 will be paid back and more to the dividends of the proposal that this MSC is working on. So in either case, it's going to be paid back through the dividends, and if there's no dividends, the borrowed money wouldn't be paid back. And in this case, if there's no dividends, this 100,000 won't be paid back. So the principle's the same. And I do respect Council's concern about an update report, and the Mayor and I have been talking about this for some time, and I agree with him. It's just not at the point to bring forward at this moment, but we are very close. We're striving for a report by the end of the year,
And if that's not possible, it'll be like immediately in January. We're just at a point where the negotiations with the proponent are such that it's just a little premature to come back.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. Anything further? The motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. On page 23 of your agenda, the draft capital budget. Diane, did you want to give us any background, or do you want to just open it for discussion? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council, senior staff, and residents, I'm bringing forward the 2017 capital budget for council's consideration. There's been a lot of work that have gone into the preparation of this budget. We've met with senior staff to go through it, and just wanted to give you highlights in a brief presentation to go along with the report. So to date, I wanted to touch upon some of the key dates that we have achieved so far that were brought back, were initially identified in an October 3rd report as far as public engagement. So we had an online budget survey which just closed on Friday, on November 4th. So I will be moving forward to get the analysis to council. The draft capital budget is being presented today to council for consideration. We have a capital open house this Wednesday, which everyone is invited to and hopefully will attend. And our final capital budget will be presented for council approval on November 28th. So some of the considerations that senior staff used in determining the priorities for 2017 include, I'll just read through some of these, the strategic plan, mitigation of risk, decreased liability, increased safety, receipt of confirmed or potential grant funding, growth-related projects, increased efficiency, cost reductions, council's priority list of items, legislative requirements, linked to our existing asset management plan, synergies with other organizations such as the region or the city of Kawartha Lakes, and also any funding restrictions. So what I'm presenting to you today is a proposed budget of $9.8 million. I've identified 6 major categories that this budget is addressing. $8.1 million of roads and sidewalks, which is about 82% of our proposed budget. Bridges, $355,000, parks, $90,000, buildings, facilities, maintenance, $433,000, vehicles and equipment, $720,000, and computer hardware services, $96,000. So as a snapshot there, you can see that about 83% of our capital budget is being addressed to roads. The way that this budget is being proposed to be funded is $3.4 million from our reserves, $4.4 million from federal and provincial grants, and $1.9 from debenture. And again, there's a snapshot. So some of the major projects that we are proposing to undertake this year, a big one of the roads, we've received more than half, about 2/3 funding from provincial and federal grant, is a Scugog Line 6 reconstruction urbanization. So I tried to identify here the total project cost and the funding. The next major road project that we're looking to undertake is the roads in Caesarea. So we understand that there is a need up there, and we're proposing that this is phase 1 of a multi-year project that we'll undertake. LED street light conversion, just under $1 million. There is a potential for incentive grants as well as energy cost savings and maintenance costs that we're looking to generate revenue for the township. Crandall Street reconstruction is another project that is currently in application. It's been sent through as an application for a grant, which if we are successful will be 90% funded by grant. So this project will actually only commence if the grant is successful, and we should find that out in February of 2017. We have been told that if we are not successful this year, we can apply again in 2018. We're looking to also set forth a sidewalk reconstruction program, which will be phase one of a multi-year program looking at infill and areas where we may have an insurance liability or a risk. Another project, Manver Scugog Town Line Road, is a joint project with the City of Kawartha Lakes, and I believe this has been on the docket for a few years. So we want to take advantage of the cost sharing before that opportunity goes away. Under bridges, we had a 2014 bridge impact study done, which identified that under legislative requirements that we do have safety issues on some of our bridges that need to be addressed. So this project will move forward with identifying about 7 of our 18 bridges that do require some construction. Parks, we've identified outdoor fitness equipment, or a green gym, which will be apparatus along the Rotary Trail, which would just use body weight as resistance. Under the buildings, we've got a new storage facility for the museum. This is to ensure the safekeeping of our artifacts. Town Hall, 1873, the bell tower reconstruction. This project is proposed at $50,000, but we have applied for a grant. We just haven't heard whether we will be successful in obtaining that grant. But there is a requirement due to the deteriorating structural conditions that this project needs to move forward in 2017. We've also got a project identified for the Old Mill urban square and ground floor design. This is to prepare a detailed design for urban square after a structural audit has been completed. Some of the vehicles that we're identifying to be brought forward in 2017 include a CBA, a self-contained breathing apparatus air compressor replacement. Some of our fleet is deteriorating, so we've put in this budget to purchase some pickup trucks for staff and a grader replacement, as well as a vehicle for our fire chief, which will clearly identify the chief in responding to any major incidents. And finally, our computer hardware software, we've got a couple of projects identified, one being budget software, to help us with this process, to ensure that there's streamlined processes through all departments, not just finance. It's collaborative with all areas to work on their budgets on a regular basis, not just one time a year. And a new recreation booking software is required, as our current software will no longer be maintained by the manufacturer. So what I've presented to you in the agenda today includes 5 years. The 2017 capital budget is what we're proposing as a funded capital project. 2018 to 2021 are projects identified for consideration, is not currently funded at this time. That will be subject to annual review and update, and in future budgets, the consideration for capital will be based on priority, available funding, and any grant opportunities we may get available. And that's what I've got.
Thank you, Director. This is the first major presentation you've made to us. You did an excellent job. Thank you very much. I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor and Madam Clerk, if well, now that we can digest this, I'm wondering if it would be time for a break before we go into detailed questions. I ask your guidance on that. Okay, then I'll request a 10-minute break.
Sure.
Okay, we'll return at, what time is it, 3:10? We'll resume now, and if you will turn to page 28 and 29, so on, you can see that, that this whole report has been very well organized in that, if you look at the far left, it says A1, that is the description of the project, so that you can, you have a full understanding of it. I want to thank the Finance Department and all of the departments. I know that you've worked very, very hard in the past number of weeks to put together a budget. You certainly requested council's input on that, and you've included it, and if you haven't included it, you've given us a reason why. So we very much appreciate that, and we very much appreciate all of the work that's gone into this capital budget, so that we can move forward and get our budget done early this year. That would be really nice. So I think we can open it up for questions now. So do I have any, the report itself and the recommendation is there. I had Councillor Somerville make the motion, and the motion was to, what is it? I don't have it right there. Receive for information to put forward to the public meeting, I believe it was, okay? So the motion is made by Councillor Somerville. Okay, questions or comments? Questions on the capital budget? Councillor Back.
Thank you, Chair. I have to reiterate all the hard work that staff has done to prepare this so that we can have our capital budget pre-approved in order to get the best pricing out on the market and the best bang for our residents' bucks. So I really do appreciate it. I found this one a very easy read, which is a very nice, refreshing change from how many hours and hours we did in the past of the budget. So this was really well organized. I do have a few questions. First, I'll start it with, and it's the third budget in a row, sorry Craig, but the birds. The bird's eye pool, the birds, $10,000.
Could you identify where
it is A15.
Thank you.
It went from a nice to have to a health and safety, and my concern is the same as the past two budgets, that the birds are not a priority, and we do have more pressing needs in the township to spend our finite resources on, and I'd recommend that the birds be removed from the 2017 capital budget. And I have a question regarding the health and safety of the way the water is coming out. If that could not be capped or plugged, if the water is rushing out like a fire hose or a fire hydrant.
Through the chair to the councillor, we can plug the hole for where the water's coming out. I talked to the pool operator this morning about that. We can do that. From a perspective of use, it's the birds, we've made the request again due to the fact that they were originally there and it was a service that was provided to the participants of the pool, and it's something that's lacking, that if we put something in, we should fix it and replace it. That's where staff are coming from, to provide the feature, like it's a half-working feature.
I appreciate your concern, and I actually respect your perseverance. It's just, I don't know if I could look residents in the eye and say, we've got $10,000 plastic birds at the pool, and go to the kiddie pool, and there's your tax dollars at work. So respectfully, I would suggest or request that be removed. I'd also like to see, I had a meeting with our treasurer earlier, and what I didn't notice in here in capital, but what I would like to see is a new sign for the fire hall at the Port Perry Station.
Was done early this year.
When did that happen? Because I drove past it not that long ago, and it was the terrible one.
No, it's brand new. before the deputy left.
Fantastic. Look at you, your arrival, they got a new sign for you, my goodness. I have to... Well, thank you, you just saved the township some money. I just know the last time I was on Crandall, which was not that long ago, I just cringed when I looked at that sign and thought you needed it. Okay, well, then we'll go on to the next. The Parks Outdoor Gym, which is A12. Just that I would respectfully request, instead of the environmental solar fund funding half of the 70,000, that perhaps we could use either Parks or the CEF for that, and use the environmental fund for other environmental issues.
A comment on that,
I can speak to that, thank you, through you, Chair. We have actually submitted a grant application for this, so we may get that funding back, but definitely I can move that funding source if it's amicable to the rest of council, that is a better funding source. It can be used, the Parks Reserve can be used for additional outdoor equipment.
Is that a recommendation?
I could, yes, recommend it.
Okay.
I'll take it out of the environmental reserve and move it from the Parks Reserve.
Further, Councillor Back? Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Watton, Councillor Somerville?
Thank you,
on that issue, sorry, Councillor,
Not on that issue.
no, just a moment. Mr. CAO has on that issue,
I
particular
must
issue.
apologize, I was just returning from the room, and I did hear Councillor Back's question about the bird's eye pool, and I just wanted to make sure staff had a chance to respond, did they? Okay, thank you.
So, Councillor Somerville?
Yes, just, thank you, Madam Chair. To Director Smith, what are the, I'm all in favor of the grader. What are the kilometers on each one of these trucks? Can you give those to me?
Line item, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's over on A 25, 26, 27.
Yeah, 25, 26, and 27.
Can you, Director Smith, give me the kilometers on those vehicles?
And perhaps the year?
And I've got the year.
Okay.
Through the chair. Number 82 has 201, approximately 201K, and it's 9 years and 50 days old. The other vehicle is being changed out. It was just topped over 400,000 clicks.
We discussed thank you, Director Smith. We discussed last year about leasing. Did you look into leasing at all?
We are meeting with a company, I believe it's next week, if I'm not mistaken. The CAO might weigh in here, and the CFO. The three of us are meeting with them to talk about opportunities around light vehicle leasing. It's not something that's done widespread in the municipal environment, but we are looking into opportunities. They will, if we did go with that company, they will purchase our entire light fleet and reimburse us for what they estimate that cost would be. So if you're thinking that might preclude the purchases of these vehicles, that's not necessarily the case. We may not be able to entertain a leasing scenario until 2018, 2019. Excuse me. It really, we have to look at the cost-benefit analysis.
Thank you. Further?
No, I just have another question. If you, with that 201 kilometer, is that the 2008 truck?
That is I believe...
The F-150?
Yeah, yes.
And that's 2000. 200,000. Could that, not be deferred until the next year?
These vehicles, due to the amount of travel on our gravel roads, they deteriorate faster than your typical vehicle would that's running paved roads. They're being utilized constantly. We have other vehicles that are in just as bad a shape, and we're trying to prioritize based on not only the kilometers, but also how much money we're putting into the maintaining of them. We get that data from the town of Whitby, who looks after our light fleet, and, you know, these vehicles are costing us more than it's worth to keep them on the road.
So, by over a 3-year period, we can't sort of do one step at a time then, over a 3-year period, like one vehicle at a time over 3 years, but you want to replace all of them at one time.
Well, 2 are replacements and 1's an addition.
Right.
The addition is really, again, if we were dealing with a leasing scenario, we'd be able to add and subtract a little more readily. But with the purchase, we don't. Our hands are somewhat tied. I'm not sure how to answer the question. We need the vehicles. If, you know, it's council's will whether we get the money to buy them or not. But if you're asking me if I can defer, I'm saying no. Just like last year, and I know the question will come up, the grader scenario. I said last year that we needed a grader. We need one this year, and if we decide that we're going to patch quilt another grader, we'll have one that goes down, and we will not be able to provide a service on those roads.
I'm not disputing the grader, because I totally agree the grader needs to be replaced. I was just questioning the 3 vehicles. Now, if you got, say, to Taylor Ford or Gus Brown or one of the local car salesmen, would you get a deal? You've got 60,000 on both of those vehicles, well, actually 60 on 3 of them and 50 on a fire chief vehicle. Can you get a deal with, Gus Brown or Taylor Ford?
We could put the 3 together as one tender, absolutely. And we always ensure the local vendors have an opportunity. We hand deliver them our requirements. It's just, in recent history, it's been outside the township that typically sharpens their pencil the most.
So do you think you could get less than 60,000 on those 3?
We won't know until we tender.
Yeah, I think you probably could. I think the F-150 would probably get cheaper than that.
There's a lot of aftermarket stuff that has to be on the vehicles, and I think that's what bumps up the price a little bit.
Yeah, I'm aware of
our
that.
requirements. Am I correct, Director?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, that's the number of my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Kett?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted an opportunity before the roads were submitted to go over this with Director Smith, but there's a number of roads from on the island that I wanted to mention, which are highly taxed roads. I thought I'd have a chance to talk to the director before this went in, but I missed my opportunity. So I wondered, I have a number of roads here. How should I handle that right now, Mr. say CAO?
Thank you. Well, yeah, I'm not sure why that dialogue didn't happen. However, since it didn't, I would suggest that you just formalize that and send it through to the department head, saying that you know, it would be looked at in the context of what you have before you, and I'm hoping that, irrespective of the list, Councillor Kett, that you have put forward, that the Works Department would have considered all roads in the context of their need. And what Council have before them today is the respective department head and their staff needs. There's no likes here, these are needs, and they prioritize these roads on what they feel as your staff have the most priority. Saying that, the reason we're here today is to seek council feedback and to let council have an opportunity to, adjust this list as they see fit. Thank you.
Further, Councillor Kett?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. That was actually one of my questions too, that the roads that were identified are clearly our roads' needs and not squeaky wheel getting the oil type of thing. Can we be assured that that's...
This would be a much longer list if it was the squeaky wheel. I get them every day.
Oh, I'm sure it would be. No, I think it's important for us all to realize that the ones that are listed here are the ones in most need. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on Mayor?
Thank you. So again, I want to reiterate that the reports were welcome, the way that they were presented. I like the format. Just some quick questions and comments. There was the $968,000 LED streetlight conversion project that was put in there as a debenture, possible or potential debenture funding. And I just more or less highlighting this for media or any other...
Excuse me, Mayor, line numbers?
Sorry, you want line A7.
Thank you.
LED conversion project, and it says various sources, but debenture is listed as a potential source. I just wanted to highlight that it also...
Sorry, to your chair, this is going to be funded from the Hydro Reserve?
Hydro Reserve, yes. That's my next one, was the LED, so the LED with the Hydro Reserve, so, got ahead of myself. The Hydro Reserve reduction, and so I just wanted to highlight that there are, as we heard from other proposals and other LED conversions in other municipalities, there are options which haven't been decided yet on where the funding source will come. It could be Infrastructure Ontario or debenture, or it could be Hydro Fund Reserve or reserve like ours, or off-book finance from the constructor of it or retrofitter of it. So I just wanted to kind of address that this funding out of the Hydro Reserve doesn't necessarily mean it will be the conclusive source of funds. But if it is going to be coming out of there, I just wanted to make sure it's highlighted that we have some mechanism that the savings will come back to, will go back to replenishing that fund. I know that we've had some discussion about that. I just wanted to bring highlight to that. The line 6, that's what I had, line 6 and LED on the same one. So the line 6 debenture potential one, I know that there's still some variables in there to be determined, along with the water servicing, etc. That line 6 number that we have there, we're going to be getting at the operating budget side, where the debt servicing is going to come into play, so we see how this is going to unfold. Because we have a couple issues with on one hand, application-based grant funding from the federal and provincial government in the past has sent municipalities letters that said you're too healthy. That's one of the reasons why it doesn't make it to the next step. Many of the municipalities at AMO conferences, etc., they talk about it doesn't seem right that municipalities need to incur debt in order to make themselves look less financially responsible in order to have a better chance of achieving a grant. But I do think that taking on, the municipality doesn't have any debt on the books now, so the kind of debt that we would be looking at with this capital expenditures would be taken on responsibly, and will show the effects when we get to the operating side. But I just want to know if you had any comments on your previous municipal experience and debentures and how they help out with granting or applications or any.
Through you, Chair. I don't have a lot of experience in that. I do know that by having debentures, there is a cost to the taxpayer as an operating cost and interest that will be incurring, that will be built into the operating budget. likely, it may help us with grant opportunities. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to investigate that a little bit more.
And it has been a common, reoccurring issue of concern, and I know they were trying to address it, at the provincial level anyway, so I just wanted to bring up that was something that was discussed at various levels about how taking on some smart debt, especially since we have access to some of the cheapest money out there through Infrastructure Ontario or through debentures through the region. I mean, some of the quotes that Infrastructure Ontario lists as 20-year debentures at 2.6%. So, I mean, that's a fixed 2.6% over there. Of course, that changes based on the time that it's the tranche that's taken, but that's just a snapshot from when we were at AMO, the rates that they had. So I just want to make sure the public is aware that if we're entertaining a debenture or taking on external debt, that it's being done as smart, cheap, low-interest debt in this low-interest environment. Next question, if I just wanted to get some clarification on the reserves, the reserve funding there. Municipal Projects Reserve talks about, that's on the bottom for everybody's reference of the large page, it's 33. I just know there's reserve funding in here, and I believe, the reporting is being done differently than maybe what we're used to in the past. So when I look at the CEF funding, for example, it shows $3.1 million and then estimated revenue 1.1, and then the expenditures 1.7 with a net of 2.5 at the end of 2016. I think in the past that was reported carry forwards that were done in the past that were committed were part of that beginning balance. That's how I recall them being reported to us, not these ones that are now. To me, it's a larger number as a beginning balance because a lot of these work-in-progress municipal projects have been rolled up and then now increase that number, and the committed numbers now at 1.7 million in 2016 could have projects that were committed prior years past.
Correct.
So I just wanted to make sure that could be misleading from somebody looking at that it's not that we're committing $1.7 million in the last year, that it was carry forward as part of that number.
Correct, and we'll work to get that number, to reduce that number with closing of some of our capital projects that have been on the books for several years. The report went through, I think, earlier this year in October or September, that identified closing of completed capital accounts, and then the excess funding that was part of those were put back into the reserves. So that's what we would be looking for going forward as well, that when projects are complete, we would close them out and put the money back in the original funding source.
And I do agree with that sunset provision or that mechanism to make sure that they don't stay in that municipal projects reserve for much longer than intended, maybe carryover years, etc. But no, I really appreciate that staff is making that a much more a cleaner reserve. The other aspect was the I think I'll save other questions for as we move forward. So just help me clarify, we have this public meeting that is coming up on Wednesday. Any issues or items that are brought up by councillors or by the public, this is going to come back to us with other comments.
Right, so any changes that will be identified over the next couple of weeks will be brought forward on November 28th when we look for council to endorse the capital project, the listing of capital projects, the 2017 capital program.
Okay, and just now, also for clarity, Councillor Back brought up a couple items like A15 with the birds.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask if there's going to be a motion on that, because
I also need some clarification on the direction. Thank you.
That's why I want to make sure we are clarifying this as well as A12. And I think I just wanted to have a more wholesome discussion on A15 before, if there was a motion coming forward on that, because this has been floating around. Obviously, the manager, Mr. Belfry, feels it's a necessary item. There's some part of it that about aesthetics, and the other part about it being functioning. for a piece of equipment. I also think that if we have a piece of equipment that is in the township that is not functioning, it's kind of representative of the township as a whole for visitors that come and use the pool. I also respect the comments that Councillor Back has mentioned about having funds, funds that there's greater needs for other items out there. However, the funding source was CEF, and I also want to highlight that our community enhancement funds and many of our other reserve funds come from OLG and slot revenues that we have there, and that section of the pie has been designated for community enhancements, and to me it fits within a community enhancement. So I just wouldn't want to see us not look at putting the bird issue to bed, but maybe Craig could answer the budget of $10,000. Is that just something that you've earmarked as an estimate, or did you actually get quotes on that? Is it quite likely that this could come in significantly less than $10,000?
It was, when we priced it out 2 years ago, it was coming around $3,000 per bird to fix. So there's 3 birds missing. It's pricey.
They flew the coop.
Yeah.
So is this one company, the company that installed it?
Yeah, that was through the company that built the pool, so.
But is there not companies that can repair it versus, the birds are still there, they're just not functioning, right?
3 of the birds, they're broken beyond repair. They just broke down through, it's a lot has to do with the hard water that's in the town, and they just eat away at the birds, so those ones are done. So looking at we could go out to other companies to get a better price.
Do we have a softener system in the pool that would help alleviate this problem in the future for?
We don't have a softener system. There's a large quantity of water that flows through that, so we would need something that's quite substantial for the amount of water that flows through there.
Yeah. Well, we all know how I ran out of softener salt and didn't realize it, and I'm paying for it now, and it's taking a while just to get my dishwasher back in shape. Yeah. So, well, then how are the birds there, if the ones that are missing, there's no guarantee that replacing it, they're not going to have this issue down the road?
The pool was built in 2002, and we've been birdless now 3-4 years, so the other ones will break down too at some point. So it's a maintenance to the features, much like any other recreational thing that gets used a lot. They're in constant motion, so they are going to break down. So.
All right. Maybe we can get a donation campaign for the birds, Save the Birds campaign.
Mm-hmm. We went there last year.
Councillor Back?
Thank you. Regarding the birds again.
Did you want to make an amendment to the motion?
No, I don't.
Better if it's fish.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you're looking at approximately $1,000 a year a bird, or per bird feature. Stating that the OLG now is going to be running the casino and the CEF funds are going to be significantly less, if not zero, after next year. I think we need to...
Chair, just want to clarify that we don't know. We have funding for this year, and I just want to make sure it's clear there to the media that we're still in negotiations to make us whole, and that's the goal. So yes, we're mindful of that as being an identifying risk, but just want to make sure it's not messaged that...
No, but it's not as it has been in the past, so I think we need to be a little bit more cautious.
We don't know.
It may be.
It may be, maybe more, maybe less.
It's an unknown currently.
Yeah,
and so when you walk into unknowns with money, then you need to be a little more cautious, and I don't think putting birds on the pool, with respect to even it having a 10-year lifespan, I don't think it's a wise use of our funds. Sorry.
So, Councillor Back, did you want to amend the motion then, to have them removed?
No, I would like them removed from the budget. The
motion is to receive it and send it to the public meeting. If you want that removed, you will have to make an amendment to have that removed.
Well, perhaps we can see what comments are at the public meeting, but I don't think that our papers are going to get out prior to that for them to know about the birds. But perhaps at our next meeting, when we come back from the public session, then I will bring that motion forth.
Okay, Councillor Somerville.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Belfry, how many birds are there? No, seriously, this could be an ongoing problem for quite a number of years, if there's several birds.
6.
And so there's 6, and we're going to replace 3.
3 are broken, that are gone right
And
now.
so we may have another 3 in another 3 more years, which would be another 10,000.
Yes, but these other ones were broken 4 years ago, so you're behind 4 years now.
What do you mean?
They broke 4 years ago and haven't been replaced.
They haven't been.
No.
But we have 3 more birds that may break.
Correct. It's possible.
So chances are they're going to break.
Everything breaks eventually.
So we're going to be 20,000 for these birds. This guy, whoever put this in, is making himself a fortune.
There's no amendment on the floor, and
I'm
it's going to
to
public.
I'm going to leave it at that motion, go to the public, and then it comes back to us, because
Yeah, I think we can discuss it then.
yes, I think this is something that needs to be seriously looked at. Because I had that question too about the birds.
I think this whole budget has been seriously looked at by staff. Councillor Watton?
If I may, just to Mr. Belfry, is there an alternative? I mean, what would be there if there were no birds? For that is pleasing to the people that go there, what else is there?
I guess looking back on the history of Bird's Eye Pool, when it was built, those birds were put in before the splash pad was put in. So that was a feature installed for Todd-age children to be in the wading pool. To be a draw. When the splash pad was built, then that age group allowed them to move to the splash pad. But it's still a draw to the patrons who come and pay to be in the pool. There's other features you could look at, which would be a larger cost to replace the tower, or you could take the tower right off and cap it and have nothing there.
That's my question.
Yeah, I think it's equivalent to what do you do if a playground structure breaks? Do you walk away and not replace the slide or the swings and say, okay, well, that's fine, there's another better one over 4 blocks over? Or do you look at replacing the bird feature that was there in the original installment as Bird's Eye Pool? It was an added feature that was specifically built for the name, so there's an expectation to deliver a product from the municipality and not have it. We can cap it, but it will work half of what its original intent was.
Right, that was my question. What else would there be if there is nothing there? There's nothing else to draw the younger or the swimmers to that pool, really. Then it's just a pool.
Yeah, that area was essentially turned into just a knee-high, or however tall you are, but a wading pool.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Okay, the motion is on the table by Councillor Somerville. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried, thank you.
Yes, so just a quick question on the surplus of the funds. I recall last year there being a surplus and it was put somewhere, is it going in the same spot? I believe there was a reserve for the self-insured loss, or the deductibles, et cetera, whatever it is.
Yes, through the chair. In 2014 is when the Durham Municipal Pool issued its first dividend, so this is the second dividend since its inception, and it is going to the same place, the self-loss insurance reserve.
And is that reported in our reserve list? I just thought maybe at some point going forward, maybe in the operating budget, that we have a list of all of our reserves so we can see. I know there's another reserve that talks about reassessment reserve for commercial reassessments, et cetera, so.
Yes. The self-insurance loss reserve is listed here on the document, and I will be looking at all of our reserves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further, Councillor Kett?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question. How would we get what would our share be? Like, I don't mean, as a percentage or as a percentage of the taxes we paid versus their total budget. Like, how does it get shared?
The cost of the premium you talked about?
Sorry, the share of our dividend?
Yeah. Yes.
We all have, there are 7 municipalities that have ownership, and, sorry, it's not listed in here. It would be our proportionate share of that from inception.
I would understand proportionate, but proportionate to what? People or to dollars?
No, it's from inception. I'd have to look that up for you.
Okay.
I don't have it at my
That's
fingertips.
fine, just curious.
Okay, anything further to the question? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, and that completes my obligation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we're on 8.2, Advisory Committee minutes. So we have page 73. I'm trying to see if the relevance of this recommendation that happened in the Heritage Permit Subcommittee meeting, October 19th, because that has passed now. So I don't know if you're needing anything for this particular. Councillor Drew?
Thank you. I was alarmed when I read this because the meeting, the Scugog Heritage Permit Subcommittee, was October the 11th, and the direction was that that the concept be presented to the Waterfront Steering Committee prior to a public presentation, and yet there was a public presentation on October the 19th, and the Waterfront Steering Committee had not met within that time frame. So I'm just wondering how that happened.
Councillor Back, is relevant?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, as with Councillor Drew, are on the Waterfront Steering Committee, and Councillor Kett had in the past made this presentation many months ago to the Waterfront Steering Committee, and I believe he also got there was a motion and support from the Waterfront Steering Committee, and the other from the Scugog Heritage Permit Subcommittee was prior to the 19th. So he did already go to the Waterfront several months ago and did have a motion of support.
Councillor Drew?
Then I'm wondering why that wasn't brought up at the Scugog Heritage Permit Subcommittee, that being the case. And also, then I have to also point out that without a engineering report back, why we would give the public the impression that that this was going ahead when we don't know what we can do with that whole area.
Councillor Kett, you want to add comments to that?
Sure I can. All of council except Councillor Drew was there at the presentation. There was no commitment to anything at that time. It was presented as a concept, and people were assured by myself, Councillor Back, and Councillor Somerville that it would be only, the inception would only be after the engineering was completed and passed by council.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. Unfortunately, that's not the perception out there in the community. We were only notified, actually through the newspaper, that this meeting was happening on the 19th. I was out of the area for a regional police commitment, so that's why I wasn't there. Otherwise, I would have been, even though I would have just read it in the newspaper. Thank you.
Okay, so the presentation that happened at the Latcham Center was a visioning exercise that was done, and we're making it clear now to the media that it still needs, if anything is out there, it still needs council approval. We're all aware of that. It was mentioned at the report, but it was expressed again that it needs to be emphasized that it still needs council's approval on that, and also the engineer's full report, which is slated, I believe, for December. So we're making sure that those proper processes, and there is some clarifications on the necessary steps required. Councillor Watton?
Question, Mr. Mayor, is just that whether this is just a summary of that recommendation, so is there anything required on this, or is this just for information?
I'll let the clerk ask that, because I asked the same question myself.
Thank you. So part of our process with all of the committees of council is we take all of their substantive recommendations and they come to council for endorsement. If the specific nature of this one or the time that has passed has made it no longer relevant, council certainly doesn't need to endorse it. That's a judgment that council will make.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments on that?
I will move it.
Move it? Okay. You're moving what with it? There's...
Where's your recommendation?
Maybe I don't have the recommendations here. There we go. Okay. So I have the...
Why don't you just read the whole motion
Yep.
and see if Bobby will move it.
So the recommended motion is that the following advisory committee minutes be received for information: unapproved minutes of the Heritage Permit Subcommittee and minutes of the Skilling Seniors Advisory Committee received for information, and that the summary of advisory committee recommendations as attached to the meeting agenda be received for information and the recommendations contained there and endorsed. You still okay with that? All right, any questions on that? Councillor Kett, did you have a question?
Yes, I don't know the rationale behind having a motion on this. It's already gone through the Waterfront Steering Committee. It's already been endorsed by council. Yes. And it's already gone through the Heritage after the...
Council. Just, I don't want to accept any banter back and forth between two councillors, so...
The recommendation went through on January last year, and it was endorsed through council. Their minutes were endorsed through council. They approved it by concept. Then it went to the Heritage Committee, and now it went to where it is right now. So that's the whole steps they've been done. After that, it went to an engineering study, and that's the process that we've been doing. It's in the main central area, which is governed by the Heritage Committee. It was out of respect for the waterfront that it was even brought to it, and the Heritage has all the conditions of what has to be done on the old mill. So this was a mistake made by the Heritage Committee that it had to be brought to the Waterfront Committee.
I just want to make sure that the CAO has an opportunity to clarify if you needed a chance to comment on this step necessary or required.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I just want to clarify that the Old Mill Marketplace concept has not been approved by council, and by simply endorsing a recommendation of a committee just merely identifies that council's aware of the committee recommendation. It doesn't mean that council agrees with that recommendation nor endorses that recommendation, and in this case, the Old Mill concept has not been approved by council. This recommendation that's before you in these minutes appears to me to state that despite what's been approved in the past, that they felt this was necessary for this to go through the Waterfront Steering Committee, because the Waterfront Steering Committee is looking at the Phase 2 waterfront review, and they wanted to make sure that it was in keeping with that waterfront review. I do understand that Councillor Kett received endorsement of his concept at an earlier time in the year from both the Heritage Advisory Committee and the Scugog Waterfront Committee. I do know that, but this, I think, recommendation stands on its own. Whether it's a mistake or not, I'm uncertain.
Councillor Kett, you wanted to...
Yes, this, I guess endorse isn't the word, but council endorsed the minutes that had the Waterfront Committee's presentation. They endorsed it in concept. It went back to the Heritage Committee, and that was put forward to the minutes of the GPA, and that's where we stand right now. So whether, I mean, this is moot. I mean, it doesn't have to be done. The Waterfront Committee doesn't control anything with the Old Mill, so it was just out of respect that we did it in the first place.
Councillor Back?
Thank you. I think, too, a bit of the confusion here was that the October Waterfront Steering Committee meeting did not occur. We usually meet monthly, and because the engineering report was not complete or brought to council, staff decided to not have Waterfront Steering Committee meetings until that came out. So perhaps that's why the wording is here, but, yeah.
Councillor Kett, I really want to put this to bed, and I want clarification on what the significant relevance is of this being received for information. And what you said, it's a moot point. Well, isn't it moot if it's just the motion goes forward?
No, Councillor Drew wants this to go through with going to the Waterfront Committee. So all I'm saying here now is that we like to keep all of our committees up to date with things that are going, and that's, I mean, it's been approved in concept by the Waterfront Committee. That's the only issue I'm trying to find out is why it has to go back there again. It was basically only to give an update anyways.
Councillor Watton?
I'm not reading that through this recommendation. I'm reading that it was suggested that it go to the Waterfront Steering Committee prior to presenting the concept, but the concept has already been presented to the public, so I would have assumed it had already gone to the waterfront also, is how I'm reading this recommendation. My 2 cents.
And that's why I was asking for clarification on this, because it's already past the time. So, Councillor Drew, is that your understanding of that motion? Or is it more of what Councillor Kett is saying, to go back to the Waterfront Committee?
Is charged with the responsibility of coming up with a concept for the waterfront. So yes, I think it should go back to the Waterfront Steering Committee, and ideally it would have gone back before it went to the public.
When was the last update for the Waterfront Committee, you said? In May?
No, January. Thank you, Mayor. It was approved by concept in January last year, and because and the Waterfront Committee didn't meet It hasn't met this fall.
So when is it intended to update or go back to the waterfront committee? Because this whole project coming back to council needs to, I mean, there was a purpose for the waterfront committee, and don't know where they're involved with that. I understand the heritage aspect of it, but I also think this is an overlapping responsibility between the waterfront advisory committee as well as the heritage committee.
We like to keep all of the committees abreast of the situations. This is a main central issue, a heritage issue, and we just, out of respect, brought it to the waterfront committee for no other point.
Okay, but I think it goes further than that, because the waterfront committee's terms of reference includes the property of the mill.
Then maybe they should be reformed.
So I think that it's not as simple as just updating it as a courtesy. They expect to be able to comment and include input on that. So, Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps the word that could be removed is update or updated, because it's the same presentation Councillor Kett had provided to the Heritage Subcommittee, is the same presentation that he did in January. Nothing had changed, so they had already seen that. I think that's what needs to be removed, is update. The only thing that would be an update status, and the Waterfront Steering Committee would know it, is the updated engineer status on the feasibility of the old mill structurally.
Councillor Watton, did you have your hand up?
I still think that the recommendations included in the report could all pass and achieve the same purpose. However, if you believe that it needs to go to the Waterfront Steering Committee, then that should be added to those recommendations, in my opinion. That the Heritage, or that Councillor Kett or whomever presents to the Waterfront Heritage Committee, or the Waterfront Steering Committee, for their input. That should be included then in the recommendations, based on what you've just said, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. The presentation that was given to the Waterfront Steering Committee last January has not changed. Everything is exactly the same, save and except the engineering. And that was going to be an update that was going to be given to them. So, because we couldn't get that update, we never mentioned, or we did mention, that nothing could be done until the final engineering report, and nothing would be done until it's approved by council.
So let me just clarify this. If that update was going to happen, and there is going to be an update because of the engineering report, why wouldn't that exercise happen? I don't see the problem with what we're spending this time on.
Because they canceled their meeting.
Oh, but if there's another meeting coming up, that they could be allowed the courtesy of updating them on the...
And then they will, because I go to every one of their meetings.
So then I don't see the issue with this
Mr.
motion.
Mayor, it was the September meeting that was canceled, not the October meeting. There was no meeting scheduled for October for the Waterfront Steering Committee.
So the September meeting is canceled and no October meeting
That's right.
was held. Okay, is there a November meeting scheduled?
And not at this point. We're waiting for the engineer's report. When the engineer's report comes back, then there will be a purpose for having this meeting.
Okay, and that's not slated until December?
Then we will either meet in December, depending on the timing of the engineer's report, or it will be January.
Okay, so, yes, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. Maybe I can help out a little bit here. In terms of the old mill concept, in the 2017 capital budget, you noted that staff are recommending the design for the urban square concept for the old mill be undertaken. That includes looking at an urban square, looking at the first floor of the old mill. That design exercise would happen in 2017, probably completed sometime before the end of, or the fall of 2017, and would involve public consultation with the Waterfront Steering Committee, the Heritage Advisory Committee, public, and council. So if council so sees fit to follow staff's recommendation to allow that budget item to proceed, that exercise will put in place a full consultation process for the old mill involving both those committees and the public and council.
Okay. So
Which I should say should really address the matter that's before us here today. Yeah, so in that regard, maybe just to summarize, that's the recommended staff approach, and if that approach is follows, I think this is, a moot matter.
Okay. So based on the update from staff and the requirements there, then, okay, so the clerk has just suggested we take out the last part, recommended, contained there, and endorsed. Is that okay, Councillor Drew?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted a fulsome discussion on this because I have to make the comment, and I've made it many times before. This is the Scugog Heritage Permit Subcommittee that's making this recommendation on plans for the waterfront. The Heritage Permit Subcommittee is where landowners, property owners in the Heritage District go to get permission or permits for their signs, for their any improvements they want to make on their building, on the front of their building or the outside of their building. And I must, with all due respect, say I don't think this is in the purview of the Heritage Permit Subcommittee, and I've found that time and again over the past couple of years. Thank you.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As chair of that Heritage Permit Subcommittee, we do much more than just issue permits for signs on the Heritage District business. We are looking to ensure that our Heritage District, the whole Heritage Conservation District, is preserved and promoted, and made as many times as we can do public information sessions to the public to note the importance of our heritage and the benefits not only to the businesses in the BIA and in that area, but also to the residents as a whole. So we're not just strictly a sign permit committee. We do a lot more than that. The fact that last year we met 36 times in a 52-week year, I think we deserve a little more respect than that, to what we do. We did these, a lot of input on the new sign bylaw for the whole township. There's quite a lot of knowledgeable people on that committee, a lot of people with sort of meat in the game, so to speak, and I think to suggest otherwise is a bit of a disrespect to that committee. So we are not just a sign permit, and the old mill is a heritage building within the Heritage District Conservation District.
No
so that's why we discuss those matters.
Councillor Back, I just want to be clear, I didn't interpret that as being disrespectful comment, but more or less the question of maybe the terms of reference don't necessarily capture all the work that the permit subcommittee does, or if that's responsibility, and I can't say one way or the other because I haven't read those terms of reference just recently, so it's not questioning the amount of work that the Heritage Permit Subcommittee does, because many of those members are longtime owners of heritage property in the downtown core, so I wouldn't want that to be the message out there that it's not appreciated, but I think it's just a making sure that we're capturing all the responsibilities required by those committees so that they carry forward with their mandate. So
I respect that, and just note that obviously the old mill being the oldest standing building in the Heritage Conservation District, it is, I am pretty sure, a mandate for that subcommittee.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. It just, no disrespect meant, and thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Mayor. No, my comment is merely that I think that there's a lot of work done in the Heritage Permit Subcommittee that actually is the terms of reference in the Heritage Committee. I certainly do appreciate all of the work that the Heritage Permit Subcommittee does, and if, you know, if there needs to be an adjustment in the terms of reference, and I'm not even sure the Heritage Permit Subcommittee has a terms of reference, so I think that the two, if there are two terms of references for these committees, that they need to be looked at and more definitely defined. Thank you.
And I may add probably through, I don't want to speak for the CAO, but the Core Service Review, when we're looking at all the committees and subcommittees, that may be addressed as the terms of reference being properly updated to reflect their responsibilities. So I think that's on the CAO's agenda. So that being said, we have the motion that's just taken out the last part of the sentence, that the recommendations contained there and be endorsed. So we're going to vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. So next item is minutes of the, correspondence, number 9. So correspondence, page 81. My laptop has decided that it's taking way too long to do this GPA. So, correspondence, is there any correspondence want to be pulled? Catching up to mine. Yeah. So, we have Councillor Drew has moved that the report dated November 7th containing items correspondence be adopted. Councillor Somerville?
I just wanted, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Correspondence to be received and endorsed, 431-6.
Which one was that? 431 to 16? Yes, yep. Okay. And that's the Town of Ajax and the Durham Transit?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so, well, since that's what, are there any other items from correspondence received for information that need to be pulled? 424-16, Kathy Weiss, Director of Economic Development, pardon me? Yep, okay, so, any other ones? So, on the remainder for the correspondence received for information, all those in favor? All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll go back to the correspondence received for information, 424-16, Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering why when everything was provided to the regional councillor on September the 2nd, 2016, why it took us until November to get the correspondence.
Is that for me?
Yes, that's, whoever's going to answer it.
So if, in regards to this one, you can see that it was received in our offices on October 19th, which was when I was out of the country. So when this came back, we put it on the very next council agenda for information.
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you for your answer. But I was wondering why, when the regional councillor got it on September the 2nd, we weren't provided with it until it was mailed out.
I don't know if you're asking for a process on information that is received. I don't know where you're referencing when it was received by. You're talking about the date that it went to,
Well, I can take a stab at that one. I think it's not typically normal process for the regional councillor to take individual reports and provide each of the reports that go to regional council to the local council. I think the items of interest are typically highlighted in the regional councilor's report at council meetings, so to have provided this immediately afterwards I think would have been kind of outside of our normal process. But in any case, I suppose the region thought that this might be of interest to Scugog, and that's why they sent it up here, and it's on the agenda as a result.
I just may want to clarify that there's hundreds and hundreds of pages of correspondence sometimes that to send it all and fill our agendas with regional correspondence, I don't think that's a proper use of anybody's time, so I believe that is through Nancy Rutherford from Kathy Weiss that this be just brought to our attention so that it does hit our agenda, as the clerk has mentioned. Okay. All right, Councillor Drew, did you have anything wanted to add to that? I don't know if captured that properly.
No, other than our agricultural representatives that go to the region as part of the agricultural committees will have copies of this report as well, and will have made their counterparts aware of it.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this correspondence? All right, seeing none, so we will receive this for information. All those in favor? Carried. Now, Councillor Somerville, 431-16, to be received and endorsed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, has this occurred in Port Perry? Did we actually have transit going around, Durham Transit, picking up residents at their front door? I didn't know that this was occurring.
No, just to clarify, because this was at a regional council meeting, it's talking about the realignment that happened in the summertime, and I also sit on Transit Executive Committee, is that this, with the realignment, some of the routes were changed where they used to stop in front of buildings that house many seniors, such as retirement residents. The realignment with community buses, etc., made it so that the residents had to walk to another route that was done, and many of the times that the residents aren't aware that there's another line that's just around the corner, so it was just as effective, but they're just used to something and there's change. So, but one of the important issues about this was just to make sure that there is support that facilities that house many residents, for particularly seniors, that mobility issues, that the transit focuses or pays particular attention to that. So when they're doing their realignments of bus routes, that they try and make sure they capture those stops.
Perfect. That's what I wanted clarity on. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on that to receive and endorse? Councillor Kett?
No.
Okay. So all those in favor? Carried. Okay. We don't have any other correspondence received. And any new business? Seeing none. Motion to adjourn. Oh, Councillor Back.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've noticed myself and several residents have noted to me the new pavement project that was completed on 7A, that there's quite a lot of portions of that look like it's falling apart. And I just wanted to ask our roads director if there's communication between the MTO and township, and what can happen, or can they remedy that? What's going to go on with that? Because it's a shame that it's brand new and looks like it's falling apart.
Through the chair, I've been in contact with MTO on at least 4 occasions regarding the two areas, one at Old Simcoe and the other as you're coming down the hill towards Water. They're very, very much aware of it. MTO is working with a subsidiary of Miller Paving, Brennan they're called, to rectify. What you see today is just a stopgap measure. They will be replacing that section.
So can I ask them, similar to what happened in the summer, if they tell you that they're going to fix it, that the township puts out communication to those residents that will be affected yet again?
I will ask them to correspond with us, and as soon as I get that information, I'll give it to our media manager or communications manager, and they'll hopefully formulate something that can go out.
I did receive many comments or emails about that. Many residents don't necessarily know that it's a provincial road, but I did notice those pylons either stay there or go back up on 7A as you're going down the hill, and then I didn't see any pylons at the other location closer to Old Simcoe, and I just wanted to make sure that they both were identified, that they were being rectified and repaired. Okay. Councillor Watton?
Just further to that, will the time of year make a difference for when it gets repaired with the weather changing? Probably not till the spring now.
All right. Any other new business? Seeing none, I have motion to adjourn moved by Councillor Drew. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.